lives up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. President William Ruto will today be on his second day visit to Mount Kenya region, where he's expected to launch a number of projects. This even comes as yesterday he was in Nyeri, where he launched a number of projects, further assuring Kenyans that he is still popular in the Mount Kenya region, and the Mount Kenya region is also included in his government. Therefore, no one should tell them any otherwise.
Na nyinyi msikuwe na wasiwasi. Hii serikali, mimi nauliza nyinyi watu wa Narumoru, hii serikali iliundwa na kura ya nani? Si iliundwa na kura yenu? Hii serikali ni kweli ama si kweli? Kwani nyinyi mnafikiri mimi ni wazimu nikasahau nani ananisaidia kuunda hii serikali? Na mimi si mlevi, mimi sikunywangi pombe, na mimi si mtu ya kuchanganyikiwa. I know what I'm doing. Na mimi nitahakikisha ile kazi mlinipatia ya kuhakikisha kwamba tunasimamia masomo ya watoto wetu, ile ya kilimo, ile ya maendeleo ya barabara na stima na hiyo ingine, nitahakikisha ya kwamba hiyo kazi inafanyika, na ikiharibika ya Nyeri hii mniulize mimi.
At the same time, he called for inclusion of allies of retired President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader that is Raila Odinga to his government.
Kazi yangu ni kuunganisha Wakenya wote kutoka mirengo yote, ndio ili tushughulike na maendeleo ya taifa letu la Kenya, kwa sababu maendeleo ya taifa letu la Kenya ni ya muhimu kuliko mirengo ya chama ama kuliko tofauti za viongozi. Na ndio sababu hiyo huyu Mutai Kagwe leo tunafanya pamoja, wale wengine hata walikuwa upinzani tunafanya pamoja, kwa sababu ya kuunganisha taifa, ndio tuweze kushughulika na mambo ya maendeleo bila ya kisirani, bila ya ugomvi, bila ya chuki, bila ya ukabila na bila ya kuwagawanya wa Kenya.
Earlier, Ruto, accompanied by his deputy Kithure Kindiki, CSs, and that is ministers and other senior government officials, led the launch of the Kieni Power Distribution Project in Nyeri County.
Vile uchumi unaendelea kudhibitika, Rais ameanza sasa mambo ya barabara, mambo ya stima kama hii yameleta hapa, mambo ya masoko, mambo ya mashule, na hiyo ndio kazi mulipatia Rais. Kweli si kweli? Lakini kuna watu wengine sijui kazi yao ni kuchochea wananchi kutoka asubuhi mpaka mchana. Kazi ya viongozi sio kuchochea wananchi. The work of leaders is not to incite the public. The work of leaders is to provide solutions for the challenges the public is facing.
4 staff members at the Body By Design Clinic in Nairobi are set to face manslaughter charges today over the death of Lucy Wembui, a patient undergoing plastic surgery at the facility last year. The suspects, Robert Maweu, a surgeon, George Wakarai, Lillian Ednah, the proprietor of Body By Design Hospital, were expected to appear in court yesterday for plea taking but missed the session. Kibra High Court Judge Samson Timu ordered them to appear or face arrest. Lucy died in October last year.
This is almost the second time the matter is coming up in court. The defense was aware that at the end of the day they were one day going to be charged. They should have moved to the High Court for other orders, but they kept quiet till now. They requested for a date at their own discretion, at their own speed. The defense, the prosecution has requested for warrants. To balance the wheels of justice, I do direct that the accused person do appear before me tomorrow at 9 a.m.
And finally, former Public Service CS Justin Muturi has officially handed over the docket to Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi on an interim basis. In a statement, Muturi expressed his gratitude to the staff at the Ministry of Public Service for their support and contributions during his tenure.
We had prepared a handover notes. It was fair that we prepared something, at least staff, senior staff under the PS Kadesha, prepared what it is that has been done, not just during my short tenure of 7 months and 15 days, exactly to 26th, to ensure that the public service is efficient, effective, agile, fit for purpose for the 21st century.
That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Are you ready?
Spice FM.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, staki kuongea today. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
A Wednesday morning, and take a quick look at what's happening on the roads as we get up into the middle of the week proper. As a little bit of traffic is coming off the Thika Superhighway. Not much, nothing to be worried about, at least not for now. The Northern Bypass flowing freely, and you'll get to Kiambu Road without an issue. And then also coming out of Westlands, we're doing okay on Waiyaki Way and into the CBD. We won't have a problem coming off of Ngong Road today, and that looks, well, at least for now. So everything looks pretty good. You're getting where you're going without any hold up or hitch up or hitches. Is it hitches? It's hitches. All right, let's get through Wednesday without too much of a problem, shall we? It is hump day after all, and let's talk and keep things moving on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Traffic updates brought to you by I&M Bank. Don't just spend, earn while at it. The I&M Bank Milele Rewards makes every swipe count. Earn every point on every purchase and redeem them for flights, shopping and more. Plus, every 20th customer to get the card gets 50,000 Milele reward points worth 50,000 shillings.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning, and how are you doing today? I hope everybody is doing fine and such things. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I thought, the rapture had happened and I was here by myself. And they didn't take me. Well, that wouldn't be fun. Watch it once. Dennis, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. It's the hair for me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Hey.
Adjusting your crown, eh?
Yeah, I gotta try. Where iko salama leo asubuhi?
Nashukuru kabisa. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Mashallah.
Yeah.
It's very good. I'm happy to see you this morning.
Me too.
You're happy to see you as well?
I'm happy to see you too,
okay.
as you can see.
Very good. Oh, yeah. Hello. City, good morning.
Jambo.
Jambo iko mingi?
Yes.
Jambo iko?
Sisi iko mzuri.
Kala.
Yes.
Bas.
Very good.
Nyinyi, you've had a meeting with yourselves and decided that this morning is good?
Sisi.
Okay. Nyinyi iko sawa?
Yes.
How are you? Mimi niko poa.
Freshy.
Dennis?
Freshy.
Very good.
Yeah.
We are fine. Now that's all a collective fineness.
Collective fineness.
Yeah, collective fineness. Write it down. I use it later. I give you permission.
I know.
Well, my coffee is strong. But it's good. I'm starting to think that maybe I have a coffee dependency. Maybe.
You're laced with coffee.
Okay, as opposed to?
As a no dependency, as in like I need a kick to get going. Yeah, and the stronger the better. Like the real brewed stuff. I
the witching hours you get out.
It does the thing.
Well.
I agree.
But you get a real good coffee, a proper Arabica. Oh my God, it's good stuff. And like now, not laced with anything. Then you taste the rich, real taste of the coffee and the real aroma getting into
Cappuccino, eh?
Just, I could go on for days, but then I guess showing my real addiction. Shall we say good morning to everybody? I'm worried.
No, do not worry.
Or is it you that's worried on my behalf?
I was thinking, and my head happens to be facing your direction, but I was thinking.
Right, then, okay. Good morning, everybody. Ednah, Iko, where sawa Iko? Bas, she has even given us a thumbs up. It's fantastic. Okay, guys, we're getting into a number of conversations this morning. It's the 2nd of April, and April's already saying, you guys thought I was waiting for no one. I am going, I am moving. We're already into the second day. And let's tell you about some of the conversations that we will have this morning, shall we? All right. Lest we forget, there are certain things that should be done. We won't forget, and it is our opportunity to bring those to light and have all of us talk about that. We will speak on that at 7 o'clock. Lest you forget, and we'll go across a number of things. that need highlighting. That's one of the things that we do on this show, to make sure that we remind ourselves of things that need to be happening or conversations that must be front and center. That'll happen at 7 a.m. And then constitutional lawyer Charles Kanjama will tell us a thing or two about the IEBC legal timelines and constitutional thresholds. Charles Kanjama will join us at 8 o'clock. And then at 9 o'clock, Robert Ochieng is the CEO and co-founder of Abujani Investments. We'll be talking about budgeting, saving and investing. It is necessary to have these conversations. And he's joined us before, and it will be good to have that as we go into the 9 o'clock hour once again. Sawa. Those are conversations. We'll have them this morning, one by one. All right, live streams, they're up. Facebook, YouTube, and on X. Join us as we get into it. And in a short while, our audience on KTN. Sawa. So I can then say good morning to people because they are all here waving at us. And here we are. Don Sabwa, we see you. Good morning to you. Karibu. Good morning, Ndu City and Dennis. Desmond Otis says, still waiting for a very hot comeback from Rigiji. Aseto and City Oyaore. Ndu and Nyaboke Bwakire. Ednah, they have decided that I am now kissing. Have you welcomed me? Oh, thank you very much. And you see, welcome. I now need a name. In fact, the campaign has begun. I've already been given Nyanduko, but Linus Gitonga says, good morning. Greetings from Dayton, Minnesota, says Cyprian Kambuni. Good morning, Spices. CT. Say yes.
Yes.
Please interpret this Bulgarian proverb.
Mm-hmm.
If you have no enemies, think then that your own mother might have produced one.
The proverb. It means you should talk to your mother.
But okay. And you know the thing about a proverb is that it is your own opinion, and your opinion can never be
wrong.
Thank you, please.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning from Ombaso, says Robert Mbogo. Bonjour à toute l'équipe. Salutations de Colline. So he says good morning to the whole team. Essentially, greetings from the hills. That's Michael Olande. He is in Kigali. Monica Oile says good morning, April Spices, and we love you. We love you too, Monica. Georgia Demo says good morning, listening from Rongo. Weather is okay. Rongo is in, remind me? Migori County. Where City says, Akina, this one are from. I can't forget it. That's actually what he said last
Actually, City calls Migori Gaza, but it's okay.
Gaza. Where these guys are from. Salams kutoka Uyunani. Where is that? Waringa Mwaura says, good morning. Let's seize this day for the 254. Indeed, let's do it. R says, hamjamboni. Pokea salamu kutoka pwani ya Kenya, says Peter Kiarie. Tumepokea. Good morning, Team Spice. Happy to have tuned in from Kilifi County. The Standard has done it again. We shall tell you what we have done. Agola, bonjour à tous, bonjour à toi. Hello, Princess Ndu. Good morning. CT and Aseto. When did we get to a point that another nation has to clarify that what Ruto says in his walkabouts is actually not true? Walala. I'm telling you, Apundu tumefika. Espoo in Finland is where Ruben is tuned in from this morning. Good morning from Doha, Princess Ndu, Dennis and City. Summer is slowly kicking as we listen to the biggest show. Asante Sana. African Queen is tuned in from the city of pineapples. Thika. Is Thika a city? It's not. But where is the city of pineapples?
They're
in Kenya?
actually working to have it a city. So
they're trying to get Thika to be a city?
Yeah. The recommendation is to have Thika to be a city. Yeah, because I think there's a committee that was sent by the Senate, which by the county, they gave their report that Thika should now get into the process of becoming a city.
Why?
See, we're citying every other small town.
Okay, so
cityfying.
Cityfying.
Oh, cityfying.
Well
cityfying.
done.
Well, there are certain conditions that a geographical area must actually attain before it can be given city status. One of them is population. So you start there and then you move on to the others. And you may find that indeed, just like Nairobi County has many cities.
Yeah. Indeed, if you look at population-wise.
Yes, it has many cities. Yes.
Indeed.
That conversation on barrows,
Yes, it is.
It is. It's true. Okay, well, that will be interesting. Pineapple's actually good for you. They help with inflammation.
Yeah.
You might want to think about that. Yeah. But we'll go with inflammation.
Yes.
Husband Sidon says, good morning, CT Ndu, Aseto and Ednah. From the Sermon on the Mount, Oh, from the Sermon on the Mountain. I'm still not boarding with the El Chapo Gospel. Hilary Mosota says, good morning, tuned in from Sydney in Australia. Always good to have you guys tuning in from the land down under. Dickens says, good morning. Good morning. We deserve these leaders. The problem is the voter, says Ngani Malala. Sawa. Talal says, good morning. Mwalimu CT, Ndu and Dennis, good morning to you. Eric Awar says, good morning. Reciprocal tariffs kicks in today, eh? Wow. The FT family says, good morning. Tuned in from Stockholm in Sweden. Good morning, Frank. Ibra Sancho is loving us. To you too, brother. Mashari and Jeru says, good morning, Spice team. Cry, my beloved country. What? Now Kalonzo and his buddies have started to cry wolf about the IEBC. The IEBC has not even been. Just wait first. We'll talk about that, by the way, at 8 o'clock. Good morning. Tuned in from Tudo in Mombasa, says Dr. Venvik. Nikona Beats. Sawa, tumekuona. Jose Mahinda says, good morning. Good morning, fellow taxpayers, says Kahogo. Good morning to you. Happy new month, team. That was yesterday, but it's okay, Grace. We'll go with it today because it's still the second. Tuned in from Tamu. Always great to have you in the room, Grace. Jakawere says, good morning. Tuned in from... the snow melting city of Edmonton in Canada. Thank God Ndu is one of the coffee drinkers. Oi. Eunice Okello says, good morning, Team Spice. Craving coffee too, says Owen. I know, it's a thing, isn't it? Ivan Omondi, good morning and tuned in from Port Florence Shores in Kenya. Where is that? Port Florence. City, you must know.
What?
Where is Port Florence?
Port Florence was Kisumu.
It was. Oh, okay. There you go. Morning, amazing trio, tuned in from County 48. In other words, Doha. Much love. Wairimu says, good morning from Kisumu. Wishing Team Spice a wonderful day. Ndu, your new name. Ndu. No, I've already been given Nyanduko. They said I should add Mora.
Yeah, Nyanduko Mora.
Tuali Brian says, good morning, Princess Ndu City and Dennis. Sabal here from Juba, South Sudan. Good morning from Colchester, says Omar. Kamande Wanyoike is tuned in from Zanzi. Good morning, Haibo. The family says, good morning, tuned in from Uganda. Good morning from Santiago in Chile, says Bastias. Doha Tupolok. In fact, I agree. Doha now is becoming County 48. You're tuned in from Hamad International Airport and you say, Kasoothing session, Yenu Ndio Therapy. Big up, Asante Sana. Tuned in from Marakwet is Elijah and John Gishuki. Good morning. And you say, good morning to everybody. Spice community from Laikipia County. Happy to have hosted the president yesterday. You guys did well. Well done. Stanley Omondi is tuned in from Kisumu. And tuned in from Indiana. Ilea, America is Matthew. My prince says, flagging 4 Kenya Power staff. Is what they are calling development. What a joke. I know. Wilfredo the Amber says, good morning, my country people. A perfect example of what real Kenyans are. Can say anything, anytime, as long as it fits the current narrative. Woi. So, we've woken up guns blazing this morning, have we not?
There's this guy called Elijah Kipsanui from Kapsoar. So Kapsoar is the second edition of Limuru. Really, really cold.
I love it. I want to go.
Yeah. Take you someday.
I want to go.
Yeah, it's
go to Timboroa.
I want to experience that cold. Yes. So, CT.
Yes.
With a smile on in your face and a skip in your step, do tell us the proverb today, please.
Yes. Where there are riches, our proverbs are still from the Comoros, the country of the Comoros. It's not Comoro.
People from Comoros are called what?
Comorans.
Comorosians. Okay, sorry. I'll behave.
No, just you're doing well. You're behaving quite well. Right.
Okay.
Where there are riches, thieves abound. If the riches are large, the thieves are as big.
It's true. It is true. The bigger the better. More money, more problems. More of something, more of the other.
Yeah.
Have you seen the place where there's lots of wastage of food, like in a kitchen that's been left dirty for days? The cockroaches are the size of rats. Where there's more to partake of, the more the partaker is bigger.
Yeah.
Tindio?
Yeah.
Sahabasi.
You look at the mice in any restaurant, they look like dogs.
Huge. They look like dogs.
Like the little chihuahuas.
Where do you guys go? I know that's the next question.
City happens.
Okay, I will not say what I'm about to say because it will not be useful.
Those establishments that you go to, Aseto, politely and politically.
You know, when you go to cover these stories in the evenings, when there is a crackdown,
you see things, my friend.
See things. They never leave you.
You see things.
That's how you decide to be cooking at home because you've seen things.
I'm in agreement with you. There are those who said you just eat the food, don't go to the kitchen.
Where?
Yes.
Because you go to the kitchen, that's the end of you and eating.
Finish. You will never eat again. If you see how things are up, you won't.
It looks like a room that is that exorcism happens in there. So
it's like I've told you guys about agege bread. You remember? Agege bread is this soft. Hey God. This bread is delicious. It is soft. In fact, when you get the one that they have just they baked overnight, then you get it around 7 in the morning.
What do they make? What is it made of?
The normal thing now, flour, those things.
Okay, then at what point does it agege?
Agege is a part of Lagos now. It's a part of Lagos where this bread is.
So this bread is made in agege.
It started being made in agege. The origin is agege. Then now people started, of course, making it, replicating it. However, if you see where they make this bread, God Almighty.
Or if you see how they make it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's the same thing in Nairobi.
Disgusting. However, the bread is delicious.
Yeah. It's like the smokies in Nairobi. The ones by the roadside. Perfect.
However,
in the evenings, where do they store those moving carts?
Let's not even talk about it because it can make somebody sick. Let me tell you what is in the headlines and then you sip your coffee. On Kenya's bold newspaper today, The Standard, the headline, Lying President? It's a question. The sub, alternative facts. President William Ruto began his tour of central Kenya with claims that have already been challenged. He said Kenya is exporting tea to Sudan, a statement that was denied by the Sudanese government real fast. He also said he's mentoring Kiharu MP in Ndindi Nyoro, an assertion that has been disputed, leaving Kenyans wondering why the president is speaking half-truths. The story is on page 6, 7 and 8, and of course we shall give you the details of that. We'll just give you a few of those statements. The statement that came from Sudan's government: no Kenyan products, including Kenyan tea, have been imported into Sudan. On the same day that statement came out. We also then got a statement from Gatanga Member of Parliament Edward Morio. Nyoro is my confidant. He confided in me that he had severed ties with Ruto after he refused to support Gachagwa's ouster. When he refused, the president instead asked him to mobilize Murang'a MPs to support the impeachment motion, but he also declined. So 2 things that were said that have already been refuted in no less than a few hours. Let's look at a few other headlines on the Standard. Supreme row. Why JSC and judges are at war. The judges argue that JSC cannot entertain petitions that amount to a review of their judgments. And then parents win after court stops e-citizen school fees payment. You know that story of how everybody's school fees need to pay? The court comes and says, no, we are not going to do it because, number one, unconstitutional. Why is it unconstitutional? Because it didn't go through public participation. So forget about that story for a while. Sawa. Court rejects 5 million shillings plea for accident-related impotence. I'm sure you want to know about that. And clinic bosses to face manslaughter case over botched surgery. There was a story of a young woman who died last year, and this was as a result of, what we want to call body-altering surgery, complications having to do with that. So now the bosses will face a manslaughter charge. After that, we'll look at details of these stories. Dennis?
Yeah, so we look at the Daily Nation and the headline today, the politics of handshakes. Now, it is all about President William Ruto's claim over 10 billion shillings demand by his former deputy Rigathi Gachagua in exchange for political support has exposed the transactional nature of the country's politics, where elected leaders are willing to dish out billions of taxpayers' cash to buy loyalty. This is after that interview with journalists, the president. And we also have Ruto and Raila are meddling with the reconstitution of REBC team, claims opposition leaders. Now, the leaders also accused Ruto's United Democratic Alliance and Orange Democratic Movement under Mr. Odinga of engaging in early campaigns. That is Martha Karua, Kalonzo Musyoka and Eugene Wamalwa. And Kenyan officers injured in clashes in Haiti gangs. 2 Kenyan police officers in Haiti have been seriously injured in clashes with gangs over the past week, raising questions about the ongoing exercise in Haiti. And reprieve for parents as courts holds payment of school fees via e-citizen. But below the nation, there's a sad story there. I've been left without a single child. Pain, agony of a widow after an accident. Yeah, so she lost 7 members in a road accident. Yeah. City.
Yes, the Business Daily, top right-hand corner of this particular paper, there's something called Life. There's a section, Life.
Oh, there's something called Life. Oh, there's a section called Life. Yes.
There's something. Then next to Life, there's Intelligence. The biggest threat to the integrity of the state has been underperformance of the economy relative to its citizens' expectations. This is a quotation, and it's attributed to Nderitu Murithi. Yes. Who was Nderitu Murithi again?
He was the governor of Laikipia County. He's now chairperson of KRA.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, what was he again? Yeah, that's what he was.
Yes, just want to see if people alert. I know exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
Kenyan households pay highest power prices in region. Okay? Kenya has the highest household electricity prices in East and Central Africa region. Just for you to keep pondering about. Right. See, we are ahead of all the other nations.
Yeah,
I love the way you look at it, but great, yeah.
We're ahead. KPC, that's Kenya Pipeline Company, cash reserves dip 44% on penalty. They happen to have paid 2.8 billion, we are told, to a Lebanese contractor as penalty and interest in the financial year 2024. So their cash reserve dipped by 44%. Small firms beat blue chip in share price growth in the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Okay? Shares of smaller firms outperformed those of blue chip firms in the first quarter of 2025 as speculative trading on small caps continued to dominate the market that grew 6%. So it is growing.
Okay.
Holders of multiple bank accounts to get full compensation. Owners of multiple accounts in collapsed banks will get full compensation of, wait for it, up to 500,000 shillings for each account if proposed changes of the law are adopted.
That's okay.
If you had money in a bank that collapsed and you have many accounts in many banks, you will get compensation, but the cap for whatever you get is 500,000.
Lakini.
So if you had $1 million, that's okay. You are going to get 500,000.
If I had 10 million?
You will get 500,000.
No.
If I had $1 billion?
You'll get 500,000.
Okay.
Oh, that seems really fair.
No, there's more to it.
Okay, here we go.
Yes, you'll get 500,000.
Wow.
Where is justice in that?
Under the table.
Previously, compensation was based on individuals, but now, and not accounts held. For instance, if I had 4 accounts in one bank, they would compensate me. Okay? But now they're specifically looking at accounts and compensating you according to the accounts. So according to this story, that's supposed to be an improvement. Okay?
It's not.
Right. Tallow writes off 19 billion in Turkana crude oil plan. Firm links move to delay in field development plan approval. We are the ones who have not approved. We. Uncertainty deepens over commercial exploitation. Right. This story is not new. This thing of approvals, not new at all. So you wonder, what was delaying the approvals?
In the first place.
Yes, because for them to have started, there were some approvals, right?
Yes.
Clearly, then there was a phase they went to, they need other approvals. And somehow these approvals were not long in coming. Okay? No, they were not short. They were not coming. Anyway.
It is sad because
they were long in coming.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because Tallow actually even extracted oil. And
not only
sold
extracted.
At some point they did and sold it. Exported it.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
They even took some to Mombasa, the pipeline. Refineries. Yes.
Billions, I remember.
Yes, so we know this, but these are the intrigues. Which country are we in again?
Kenya.
Precisely.
Yes.
So, right. Lawmakers propose bill for metered billing of internet use to stop exploitation. What are you talking about? The story is talked about on page 7. Smart farming, how conservation agriculture helps fight climate change. By the way, this Tullow oil rights of 19 billion, that was bang in the middle of that paper.
Oh, it was, eh?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
So now I'm in the Star. The stories I'm reading are from the Star. I've moved from the Business Daily.
Okay.
Yeah. All right? Now, bang in the middle of the paper. Bold. Ruto dares Gachagua.
Walala.
Okay. In a storming... Wait a moment. No, let's not... Forget the bang in the middle of the paper. News. Row looms over IBC chiefs after claims of impartiality.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. Manslaughter charges for body of design by design owners. Remember the beauty thing where...
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah.
That one, yes.
Yeah.
They've also mentioned it. Now let's go back to the bang in the middle of the paper.
Do it properly.
In a storming tour, bang in the middle of the paper.
Thank you very
Ruto
much.
dares Gachagua. In a storming tour of Mount Kenya, President dismisses threats to make him a one-term president as he doubles down on his development agenda. That's it.
How was he there, deep?
Okay.
Yeah, no, the sound effects, I love
know,
it.
It's really important.
I'm here for it. Yeah.
Bang. Yeah.
You've eaten properly, CT, this morning. So those are what the headlines look like. How about we come back after the short break, take a look at weather, traffic, and then we will look at the stories in detail. Nespa?
Nespa, indeed.
Indeed. It's 25 minutes to 7. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions, a chance of a sprinkle in Nairobi this morning, currently at 16, going to highs of 26. It's clear at 13 into Nakuru and sunny at 13 in Nyeri. 12 degrees and clear conditions in Eldoret with highs of 26. And Mombasa is looking sunny at 26 with highs of 33, while at 27 it is sunny in Malindi. We'll see highs of 33, clear conditions at 20 in Kisumu, and at 19 it is clear in Kakamega. Mostly cloudy at 20 into Kampala, and Dar es Salaam at 24 is sunny. Johannesburg is clear at 12, and we're looking into a sunny Mogadishu at 27 with 9 degrees, and sunny in Addis Ababa. It is mostly cloudy at 28 in Lagos with 22 and cloudy conditions in Kinshasa. It is 15 degrees and sunny into Beijing, while Paris at 7 is cloudy. London at 8 is mostly cloudy, and it's clear Tuesday night in New York at 7.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
All right, let's take a look at how things may have changed on the roads this morning. Still early, but a little bit of movement starting to happen. And this is coming on Jogo Road. Movement, of course, but it's going to slow down a little bit because there are more vehicles on the road. As we get past the Makadara train station out then towards Landys Road, it's going to slow down just a tad. It's also starting to build up on the Thika Superhighway as you come through towards Survey and then out towards the Pangani Underpass. There is traffic on Kiambu Road and it's starting to also build. Kangunda Road, interestingly enough, not looking too busy this morning, but we're seeing the build up of traffic coming off of the Eastern Bypass, then towards North Airport Road, and that will clog up at some point. Langata Road for now looks good. Use it while it is still open. The Southern Bypass also looking good as a connector towards Mombasa Road on one side or Langata Road on the other. We'll keep in touch, shall we? SpiceFM on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so we're looking into the papers this morning. Sawa, now I don't even know where to start. Let's look at this story. Page 6 and 7 and 8. It's carried in the Standard. We do know that the president has begun his tour of Central, and while the president painted a rosy picture, some elements just did not add up. These are some stories that we're looking at now. When President William Ruto gave a broadcast interview from State House Sagana, he painted a picture of a thriving country. He spoke of expansive infrastructure and flourishing agriculture, while reassuring Kenyans that tea exports to Sudan were ongoing despite reports of a ban. But their claims backed by hard facts. But were these claims backed by hard facts? Or was this another round of political optimism? Claim 1. Sudan still imports Kenyan tea despite an official ban. President Ruto asserted that despite an official suspension, Sudan continues to import Kenyan tea. He may have based this claim on a statement by an advisor to the Rapid Support Forces, El Bashir Tabeg, who posted on X that RSF-controlled areas could guarantee the smooth passage of Kenyan goods into Sudan. It could be. However, on a fact check, it is false. The Sudanese embassy in Nairobi refuted Ruto's claims, stating that Sudan's Ministry of Trade and Supply imposed a ban on Kenyan imports on 11th of March 2025, and that the decision is being strictly enforced. The statement read, since then, no Kenyan products, including tea, have been imported into Sudan. Despite Ruto's assertion, official trade channels confirm that Sudan has ceased importing Kenyan tea, making his claim inaccurate. Claim number 2, the government has dismantled cartels in milk, tea and coffee sectors, boosting farmers' earnings. He stated that his administration reforms have increased farmer profits and went on to say that the price of milk per litre has risen from 35 to 50 shillings. Fact check, partially true. While coffee farmers in regions like Nyeri have reported higher earnings due to direct market access, the tea sector is still struggling. A Tea Board of Kenya report showed a decline in both production and exports in 2024. Claim number 3, the 560-kilometer Mau Roads project is 50% complete. The president claimed that the Mau roads connecting Kiambu, Nyeri, Murang'a, Nyandarua, Embu and Tharaka Nithi are halfway done. He also mentioned securing 36 billion shillings from China, with 15 billion allocated to Mount Kenya roads and an additional 400 kilometers planned. Fact check. Unverified. While the government secured 36 billion from China, no publicly available documentation details how these funds were allocated. Where? It goes on and on. Things that are unverifiable, things that then seem to be false. It just seems like a lot of, this is what then gives rise to the headline that's on the front page of the Standard this morning. Then it just all seems to kind of blend into the other thing. March 11th, not so far away, where the ban of, Kenyan projects was announced by Sudan. It's barely 2 weeks. So it's possible that maybe, there was a confusion of information.
You see, when this report is based off the communication from RSF, which begs the question in terms of our foreign policy, because we know the fights between RSF and the Sudanese military, and the fact that even RSF came to the country and signed those deals and whatnot, that continues to make our situation with Sudan even tougher, because we're basing our communication based off RSF has said that it can guarantee safe and easy passage of our products. Does not make our case even better.
The president has trade and economic advisors.
Yes.
There's an entire ministry, there's an entire department that handles trade specifically, which falls under the ministry. Yeah. Is it possible that maybe he just didn't know that the ban had not been lifted?
How about the president would have just let that office to give that communication? The president doesn't have to be the spokesperson for everything.
And you can't run away from the fact that he was in tea-growing country, and there was an opportunity for, things to be made to seem a little bit more rosy, just because, you can say, you see, even Sudan here, they're taking our tea, so nyinyi musijali, wakulima muendelee tu kupanda nini.
And you see, that is at the expense of losing credibility.
I know.
Yeah.
No?
This debate will continue.
Can you?
The back and forth will continue. Because by all accounts, the president is addicted to making statements. I say addicted deliberately because he speaks all the time. And he speaks on literally every subject one can possibly speak about.
Yeah.
So when you speak, there are people who will respond. When you say things, people will respond. This is the manner in which he has chosen to communicate. This is the manner in which, as the president, he has chosen to communicate. And when you communicate with people, communication is a two-way process.
Yeah.
You speak, people speak back.
Yep.
Yes. So if you are speaking so that you can gauge what people think, you are getting feedback. Yes.
Wow. Some of them are expensive, though.
Very, very expensive. Because you're talking about it is an engagement between two governments. One appears to be telling a lie. The other one seems to be fighting for the rights of its people, and says, because you're supporting the other side, we have blocked any trade agreements that we had. So,
you see, the net effect is that the traders, the people who trade in tea,
suffer.
Yes, they do, both in Sudan and Kenya. We are not the only tea producing country in East and Central Africa.
No.
It's just that the tea in this region is aggregated in Mombasa for purposes of selling. But there is nothing stopping other countries that grow tea to export their tea directly to other markets in East or on this continent. Nothing whatsoever. Yes.
Very true. Hiya. From here.
Ruto Raila meddling with the IEBC rebuilding. Now, the opposition yesterday rejected the constitution of the Electoral Agency, accusing President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga of manipulating the process. The leaders also accused Dr. Ruto's United Democratic Alliance and the Orange Democratic Movement under Mr. Odinga of engaging in early campaigns. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, People's Liberation Party chief Martha Karua, and DAP Kenya's Eugene Wamalwa alleged that there is a plot to control the recruitment of new independent Electoral Boundaries Commission commissioners. They said only individuals loyal to the Kenya Kwanza Alliance are in good position to secure crucial positions, ultimately paving the way for electoral fraud in the 2027 general election. So these the three are saying that there are plans to ensure that those who take the positions at EBC have close ties with President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Okay.
Yet, when the selection panel was being put in place, see, they all had a say in the selection of that panel.
When Isaac Hassan was chairman of the, what was it then called? Independent Electoral Commission or
IEC,
whatever it was called, or ICK, whatever it was called, ECK. Thank you very much. What then happened was exactly what you're discussing. The politicians had their say, and yet the blame fell on Isaac Hassan's shoulders. The problem that arose, and we saw it, we witnessed it, but the politicians had their say. Does it not tell us that so long as you have politicians participating in this particular process, we will always have problems? We've had problems in the past. So this method of determining, first of all, who is in the selection panel, because that's what happens. People represent different interests, okay? The moment you have that, then what do you think the outcome is going to be? So I honestly don't understand what it is that we are supposed to understand when something is patently obvious.
It's obvious.
Okay.
If you have folks who are partisan in a selection, what do you expect the outcome to be? Do you expect that somebody who, from the get-go, was leaning in a particular direction is suddenly going to change their position, and then you want to come out and complain later and say, you know what, the outcome of this thing is going to be partisan? Well, of course it is. Because you have people who are leaning on one side who were in the selection thing in the first place. What did you expect they were going there to do? Why do you see that? Why do you think there's this heavy lobbying by political parties? No, we want our person. Why do you think they're there? They're not just there or to just have an eye on things to make sure they don't go all right. No.
And you see, even as we have this discussion, remember that this delay was actually caused by someone going to court because they felt as though they had been shortchanged. But that notwithstanding, the three individuals are now saying that they have a problem with that selection panel because they fell out with Raila Odinga, because when they were together, they agreed on who was supposed to be in that panel. So how come right now, because you fell out with Raila Odinga, all of a sudden now there's a problem with the selection panel?
Look, man, if you put flour, eggs, sugar, milk in a pan and mix it and put it in the oven, what are you going to get?
That thing for raising the thing.
Even
yeast.
Baking powder.
Yeast. That one. So you need to put that one.
Also. What do you think you're going to get? You'll get a baked good. You will get that.
You will get agege bread.
Agege baked bread.
You'll get, what do you expect? If you put in the ingredients, you will get the result. I don't understand why we are making noise. What did you think was going to happen? And that's why we keep saying the independence of this thing then is really in question, because is it really independent? If folks, you are refereeing the whole thing and you're also a player. It's not possible.
Thing is, you're getting your agege bread right now, but you're forgetting you're preparing it in places you don't want to go to.
You know, the If you look at the logic that politicians use when they want to determine what it is they should talk about, the topic of discussion for the day, and their position in it. See, this is an example one must not follow. Okay? Yes. Because they vacillate. And not only do they vacillate, even the interests that they're supposed, their interests, in other words, that they're supposed to represent, they're represented badly. Because when you're vacillating, one wonders, okay, so where exactly are you?
Yeah.
And all this noise, is it noise for the sake of the citizenry so that we can be alert, we can be aware, or are you bargaining? Because this is politics. When politicians protest and complain and pitch a fit, they are bargaining.
I would love it if they sat on these panels and actually said, you know what, we're actually here for the people to ensure that 1, 2, 3 doesn't go out of whack. That would be fantastic. But have we historically seen situations where that has been the case?
And this mix and mix that they keep supplying us with, when has it worked?
Jamani.
Yeah.
Wait and see. See, they said that by the end of April, this April that we're in now, that there will be a new constitution. Wait and see. Wait and see the noise that will be made when people say, no. Whatever the result may be, there will be somebody who is complaining. Wait.
Yeah, we'll see a lot of litigation.
The freedoms that we have are very good. And the freedoms enable us and allow us to do and see the things that we see. But the politicians must understand that they are leaders. When you are leaders, the things you do, other people will emulate.
Abisa. They will.
So if they emulate it and it works against your interest, please don't complain. Because that will also happen.
Yeah.
Yes. The very things that you are representing, others will copy it, they will see it, and at some point, that thing will turn against you. And it will not be in your interest. So continue.
You just continue.
Yes.
Keep mark timing. You know, when you mark time, you don't move.
Yeah, just in one spot. Just exactly.
So you keep mark
marching on the spot.
The most you'll do is just sink. But anyway.
City Trumpet story.
I'm trying to think of which story I will say which is uplifting. And yes. Court says mandatory school fees via e-citizen is unlawful. But we discussed that, didn't we?
Nope.
We just mentioned it, didn't
Just the headlines.
we? All right. This is a story of the High Court that nullified the government's directive requiring parents to pay school fees through e-citizen. What did the court say? It is unconstitutional. Okay? Yes. So you say what you want, but it must be within the boundaries of the Constitution. Justice Chacha Mwita also quashed a January 2024 circular issued by the Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang, which contained the directive. So directive out of the window. The court ruled that the directive was implemented without adequate public participation and partners' engagement through thus violating constitutional provisions. Justice Mwita also found that the Kenya shillings 50 convenience fee imposed on transaction on e-citizen has no legal basis. It wasn't raining here. It was pouring. The court noted that the fee amounted to double charge and that the government is forcing people to use a system they did not ask for and making them pay to sustain it. Do you get it?
We get it.
You get it. It does not make sense for the government to compel citizens to use a platform and then force them to pay to sustain it. This is irrational and unconstitutional and unconscionable, the judge said. Okay, the unconstitutional bit was my misreading. It's unconscionable.
Unconscionable.
Yes, that one.
Yeah,
he said that there is no explanation regarding who would receive the convenience fee and what it is used for, thus making the charge unlawful. All right. The case was filed by Nakuru-based surgeon Dr. Magare Gikenyi, who argued that there is no legislation or financial or framework guiding how the funds are utilized or returned to the end users. The petition also questioned the rationale behind the 50 shilling transaction fee, saying it would disadvantage parents who pay fees in kind. That's an uplifting story.
Yeah, it is an uplifting story. It's not going to happen. It was never going to work in the first place, and it just looked like a huge conduit for corruption. My God.
You know why I say it's uplifting? Remember what is pointed out. It could have worked. It could have worked. All that was required was the Ministry of Education is involved, the public is spoken to, and one gets a response. We've done this before on issues. We tried to do it with the finance bill, so we saw when an attempt is made to engage the citizenry, it happens, okay? And then there was the small matter of explaining where the money would go, what it was utilized for.
Yep.
It is the same discussion that we had with the Hustler Fund.
Yeah.
Okay, where is it situated, located? Where all the requirements, the board, the what? These were later constituted, but at the beginning they didn't exist. You see, it's a pattern. Something is declared and it's supposed to happen, ignoring and then abrogating legal provision and constitutional provisions. It is a pattern.
It is.
I've given 2 examples, but there are others.
There are.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are very many others.
And you see, the repository of these, so even now if we just ask the government, can they tell us the monies that were paid by the parents? How much was raised? What did it do?
Okay, this housing levy that people pay for, let's just go there.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how much has been collected so far?
Exactly.
What has been taken from people's salaries?
Yeah.
When you're talking about SHIF, people's monies have also been deducted. Do you have any idea how much of that has been collected so that one can understand? All I'm trying to say is it forms a pattern.
It does.
Okay? And that is what is the problem. Whatever it is you're trying to do, when it doesn't follow laid down procedures, it will be considered unlawful. And yet it didn't need to get there.
And then another critical question that the judge actually raised there is the fact that there are parents in this country who pay, say, I don't have the cash, but I have maize. I take that to school. And
how do you sort
that? So how do you sort that out? Because I saw that happen in high school. There are students who the father would drive in with a pickup full of maize, and that would trade in as school fees. So
some even pay fees with labor.
With labor, yes. So there's a lot that needed to be discussed, because then that would feel, in terms of equality, there is a section of Kenyans would be left out to access.
And then
education.
how do you pay the extra fees that a lot of schools are asking parents to pay outside of what and this is in public schools, outside of what the normal school fee is supposed to be. So do they also pay through Citizen? Most of the time the government doesn't claims not to know that these extra funds are being paid to schools. So how is that one paid?
Yeah.
Anyway, it is good. And these are the things that would have come up in the process of public participation if it had actually occurred. And I guess that is why Chacha Mwita, in his brilliance, decided, you know what? Stop this thing. People should go back to what they were doing. Let's just continue as it is. And let's not put any lemon in our soup. In this case, it's not going to work because it will sour the whole thing. Right?
Yeah.
Let's look at one more story before we get to the top of the hour, and it is a justice one. Remember that there was a fund that was supposed to come to the judiciary? Well, this headline is that Ruto fails to keep judiciary budget promise. In his inauguration speech on September 13th, 2022, President William Ruto said his administration would increase allocations to the judiciary by 3 billion shillings every year. Every year, 3 billion. Pa! Next year, 3 billion. Pa! Like that. Has it happened? Well, let's see. President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration was accused of underfunding the judiciary. Hence, President Ruto's promise to give them additional financing when he took over. And I quote, "My administration will scale up the budgetary allocation to the judiciary by an additional 3 billion shillings annually for the next 5 years. These resources will support the bottom-up scaling of justice by increasing the number of small claims court within from the current 25 to 100. His pronouncement, however, can be added to his now long list of promises that are short on implementation. According to the Treasury's budget documents, there was an increment of about 1 billion shilling during the administration's first budget of 2023-2024, when the judiciary was allocated 22.43 billion shillings from 21.13 billion it had received the previous year. In the current financial year, the amount went down to 22.2 billion. A July 2010 report from the Task Force of Judicial Reforms observed that to enhance the independence, operational autonomy, efficiency and effectiveness in government and management of the judiciary, it is recommended that the annual budgetary allocation to the judiciary be augmented to a minimum of 2.5% of the national budget. Now, it would appear as though the money has not been coming as they said it would. So access to justice will just remain as it is for now until they get more money. But the 3 billion per year, in addition to what you already have received. So if you were receiving 20 billion in 2023, you would receive 23 in 2024, and then you would receive 27 like that. But
you see, that is if the judiciary budgets would not also be revised downwards, because that has also been happening. So yeah.
Yeah, but the
so you'd be getting
that
20 billion this year. It's reduced by 3 billion, and then you just top up, Cinder, to get the 20 that you're getting.
Yeah, but it didn't come.
It didn't come.
Sorry. Hakuna. Hii pesa hakuna.
Hakuna pesa.
Now, I'm going to do one last story real quickly in 1 minute. Senators push Treasury to pay schools 67 billion shillings. Remember, over the last 5 years, capitation has been lacking by about 67 billion. So senators are saying, you know what, come on, guys. You were supposed to pay this money, pay it. They now want the National Treasury to prioritize the timely release of schools' capitation to end the perennial cash flow challenges facing public institutions across the country amid arrears of 67 billion. 2 weeks ago, school heads complained that they were owed 7 billion in outstanding capitation for the first term of this year, with schools set to close by Friday. So this year already you still owe them 7B. Kenya Secondary School Heads Association Chairman Willie Kuria said the 7 billion was in addition to the 60 billion owed by the Treasury to the Ministry of Education for unfunded pupils from 2023. He added that schools were struggling to pay off salaries and remit statutory deductions for workers and board members. So the senators said this cannot continue, not under our watch. And so now they're saying, Treasury, 67 billion muko nayo.
But you remember the CS said we can't pay for what has passed. So
Apana.
He did.
He did say that. He did. He actually said it. Yeah. He did. But pay is what we are saying. Good morning. 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubago. Political row is looming over the restructuring of the IBC, with the opposition claiming that some of the candidates nominated by IBC chairperson for the IBC chairperson and commissioner search panel are unfit for the job. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, People's Liberation Party's Martha Karua and DAPK's Eugene Wamalwa claim that some of the candidates that were shortlisted for the positions are actually UDA and ODM members. The leaders are now challenging the shortlisting of specifically Joy Mudivo and Katwa Kigen, who've represented President Ruto in various court cases.
The National Intelligence Service, which has recently been accused of abductions, torture of civilian disappearances and other human rights crimes and illegalities. We challenge the IEBC selection panel to categorically explain how Ms. Mudivo and Katwa Kigen were shortlisted and the role, if any, of the NIS in the selection process. We also urge the panel, I want to add there, and anybody else who has conflict of interest.
Experts have warned that a protracted dispute over the IBC leadership could destabilize the country ahead of the 2027 elections. This event comes as the opposition has now threatened to file a lawsuit if the panel ignores their concerns and submits the names to President William Ruto.
Swala hili lina umuhimu mkubwa sana, na sisi hatutakaa kitako tu na kungojea uamuzi wa pande moja kutoa list ya wale ambao watakuwa wameteuliwa kama wenyekiti ama mwenyekiti na pia wanachama wa tume ya IBC. Kama alivyosema dada yangu Martha, tuko tayari kuchukua hatua yoyote ile ambayo tunaonelea ina umuhimu.
President William Ruto will today visit Meru County, where he'll commission then Nkwene substation in Imenti South this morning. Later in the evening, he'll head to Kirinyaga County to commission projects at the Kagio market, including power infrastructure improvements. Yesterday, the president was in Nyeri, where he defended himself against the notion that he has marginalized Mount Kenya for development and that his popularity was affected after his former deputy Rigathi Gachagua was removed from office.
Na nyinyi msikuwe na wasiwasi. Hii serikali, mimi nauliza nyinyi watu wa Narumoru. Hii serikali iliundwa na kura ya nani? Si iliundwa na kura yenu? Hii serikali ni kweli ama si kweli? Kwani nyinyi mnafikiri mimi ni wazimu nikasahau nani alinisaidia kuunda hii serikali? Na mimi si mlevi, mimi sikunywangi pombe, na mimi si mtu ya kuchanganyikiwa. I know what I'm doing. Na mimi nitahakikisha ile kazi mulinipatia ya kuhakikisha kwamba tunasimamia masomo ya watoto wetu, ile ya kilimo, ile ya maendeleo ya barabara na stima na hiyo ingine, nitahakikisha ya kwamba hiyo kazi inafanyika, na ikiharibika ya Nyeri hii muniulize mimi.
At the same time, he called for the inclusion of allies of retired President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM party leader Raila Odinga in his government.
Kazi yangu ni kuunganisha Wakenya wote kutoka mirengo yote, ndio ili tushughulike na maendeleo ya taifa letu la Kenya, kwa sababu maendeleo ya taifa letu la Kenya ni ya muhimu kuliko mirengo ya chama ama kuliko tofauti za viongozi. Na ndio sababu hiyo huyu Mutahi Kagwe leo tunafanya pamoja, wale wengine hata walikuwa upinzani tunafanya pamoja, kwa sababu ya kuunganisha taifa, ndio tuweze kushughulika na mambo ya maendeleo bila ya kisirani, bila ya ugomvi, bila ya chuki, bila ya ukabila na bila ya kuwagawanya wa Kenya.
That's the news wire. I'm Lydiah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, taking a look at what's happening with traffic as we are coming past the 7 o'clock hour mark, and a little bit of traffic is still starting. Building on the Thika Superhighway. As you're coming in from Githurai, it is quite heavy actually, as you come over that Thika Road bypass and then interchange towards Wairimu. So that's very busy. As then you come out through towards the Pangani underpass, very busy traffic. Kiambu Road is also building, and it's coming off of the northern bypass, but that is flowing as you do that crossover between Runda and that Kiambu connection. There is some traffic also that has built on Langata Road. It's coming in from Magadi Road. That's very busy as you then approach the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. So that's doing the thing. The Eastern Bypass also starting to clog up. And Outer Ring is crossing over from Manyanja towards Jogo Road and then out towards North Airport Road. So it seems as though we're getting into traffic hour early this morning. We're going to keep an eye on all of this and try to keep things moving, of course, with your help. Let us know what's going on where you are. And let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Traffic updates brought to you by I&M Bank. Whether it's groceries, fuel or luxury shopping, make every swipe count. The I&M Bank Milele Points gives you real rewards for your spending. What's even better, every 20th customer to get the card gets 50,000 Milele reward points worth 50,000 shillings.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 7 after 7 on the second day of April and into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Wednesday morning. Karibu Sana. If you are on our live streams, you're on Facebook, you're on YouTube, and you are on X. And Karibu to all those listening on radio around the country and indeed in the region and around the world. And to our audiences on KTN. Everybody, welcome to the Situation Room. Lest we forget is a conversation that we will have this hour. And we'll be looking at certain things that must be remembered as active citizens, as those who practice the art of living within any nation. There are certain things that we ought to remember, and that's some of the things that we'll be talking about this hour. So Karibu Sana into the room today as we do that on Kenya's biggest conversation. But first of all, education. And I want to attend a global university. I do not know where to start. I do not know who to talk to. I don't even know how I'm going to get the funds to do it. You seem to have the answers, Dennis.
Oh, yes. You just knock on LX. LX gives you a pathway that will link you with these global universities. But how do they do that? They ensure that they bring this idea to the young Kenyan graduates that there is a reality. The dreams that they are having of joining these universities, LX has an answer to that. They will ensure that your dreams, you get the recognized skills, access an extensive network of global universities, and get mentorship and career guidance. LX says 21st of April is the deadline. You need to start applying, continue applying because time is running out. You go to bit.ly, bit.ly/LX Pathway SFM. There you will start your journey to getting into these global universities.
Fantastic. And this is a day that just keeps on giving, CT, because for some reason when I shop, I can win. When I travel, I can earn. When I spend, I can still earn.
You know, one could summarize what you've just said with just one financial tool. It is called the World Credit MasterCard by I&M Bank.
Voila.
That card enables you to shop. It enables you to pay bills. And while doing this, you actually earn points. The points are called Milele points. Now, these Milele points are what you call redeemable. Redeemable in this sense, just like you use the card to purchase. Over time, when you've accumulated the points, you will be able to use these points in the same manner that you used your card. The points can translate into your purchasing power for the needs you have, whether you want to fuel, you want to shop, you want to buy a ticket to fly. These are possibilities. As I say, etc., etc. Okay? But in addition to that, when you register, and to register, you need to go to on I&M Bank on the Go. That's the platform. Now, that particular platform, should you, perchance, be the 20th applicant, you stand to win this chance. The chance is to get 50,000 Milele points. 50,000 Milele points is the equivalent of 50,000 Kenya shillings.
It's beautiful stuff.
Yes.
Fantastic. We'll share more information with that, with you on that, about how you can go into it. And so you just need to stick here and we continue with that. Lest we forget, it is important that we have certain conversations lest we forget. But even as we get into that, CT, you want to remind us what today's proverb is?
I do. We are in the Comoros. Where there are riches, thieves abound. If the riches are large, the thieves are as big.
Those places where Aseto goes and sees mice the size of dogs.
Yes, the mice and the cockroaches are not thieves. Them, the moment you leave food in the open, you welcome them.
Yeah.
That's the calling card. You've told them, come. Come ye all.
Yeah.
Yes.
And partake.
Yes.
That's it. Where there's a lot, thieves abound. Well, it would appear so, even when we're dealing with certain things in the country, and to ask ourselves, lest we forget about certain conversations, lest we forget on certain things. But before we get into that, CT, there have been very different remarks that have come from the state in terms of what media, and specifically what this media where we sit, does on a daily basis.
Yes. This media does what media is supposed to do. We are supposed to inform, educate, entertain. And since the media exists within the ecosystem of what you call a society, it does represent the norms of that society, and it will seek to represent those norms whether it is positive or whether they are not positive. Because that is the role of the media. In representing these views and in telling the story of the society in which the media coexists, and within the larger community of the world global village, the media will comment. The media will state categorically. The media will investigate. And it will put out its findings. In so doing, and in the consumption of this information, there will be reactions. And I believe that what we are now talking about is one such thing, a reaction. Now, this is the positivity of the engagement that the media takes pride in being part and parcel of. Even if someone receives that information in a manner that isn't pleasing to them and expresses it so, the media then gets to understand how the individual thinks and what impact that particular communication has made. It provides for an opportunity not only for further discussion, but for introspection. So the media can look and determine whether the things that have been said, the points that have been made, the points that have been brought up with regards to the contents of its communication are in any way related to the truth, or in essence are the truth itself. It's a rare opportunity and it's a welcomed opportunity. Because in the absence of this, the media cannot know whether the mandate that it has is actually being fulfilled.
If there was no response to some of the things that we see, would it be deemed as though then the work that's being done did not land on something? That perhaps we see the friction that's caused after that then means that it hit a nerve. And if something hits a nerve, then there is an element of truth, or is an element of reflection then that must come into play about the things that were actually said. Do you see a situation whereby if you have said something, you've put it down on the table, and somebody has reacted in the manner in which they have, does it mean that there has been something that you've said that perhaps needs some reflection?
Yes, because at the end of the day, as City has said, whatever it is that the media puts out there creates an opportunity for discussion, for engagement, and even furthering the conversation. And now that that has happened, the reason why we are here talking about it is so that the communication and the engagement continues.
Absolutely.
And whoever responds to whatever it is the media puts out there shows that it touched a nerve, hence the need for them to respond. Remember, in media we say, whether you respond or you don't respond, communication has happened.
And in some cases, no response is a response.
Is a response.
Just stuff for us to remember. We're having a session this morning of Lest We Forget, and I have to tell you that Lest We Forget, on the 25th of June 2024, a young man called Mukuria was last seen being forced into a police vehicle. His mother then in the evening did the rounds, and she went around to all police stations. She went around to as many hospitals as she could. 9 months later, Mukuria's mum still cannot find him. She doesn't know where her son is. Those who say he may have been in a police station somewhere, it has never been able to be verified if they've actually seen him. We do not know where Mukuria is. His mother's tears have not dried. She cannot find her son. Lest we forget that there are many who have disappeared over time. There are many bodies that have turned up in large bodies of water. There are people who disappeared after protests and have not been found to date. There are tales of people having died. Lest we forget that there are Kenyans who are missing. Mukuria's mother cannot find him. Lest we forget, today marks 2 months and 12 days since Bernard Odhiambo went fishing in Lake Nakuru National Park. By the end of the evening, his wife, Alvia Okoh, realized that he had not come home, and the stories that she had been given as to what befell her husband then caused nightmares for her and her young children. Lest we forget that today we still do not know the whereabouts of Brian Odhiambo. We do not know if he is alive or dead. We do not know what the results of the inquest will be, and we do not know who will have a case to answer. But lest we forget that there are many young men and women who were abducted, disappeared for days on end, and then released later only to tell harrowing tales of what actually happened to them. Lest we forget, Kenya constitutionally is a free society, and that there are people who are which has people in it who are allowed to actually practice the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression. Lest we forget, there are still over 100 people missing today who were in one way or another attached to some kind of political or social or justice causes. Lest we forget, they're still missing today.
Lest we forget that this is what journalism is all about, and the roles that journalism plays in participating in the day-to-day lives of the citizenry of the country where that media house is actually nestled, involves the monitoring role that it has among the many roles it has. It involves the collaborative role that it has. It has the interventional role, and it also has an accommodative role. Now, in monitoring, journalism seeks to observe, to look, and to determine what it is they have seen, and they report it. In intervening, they interpret what they have seen. And in interpreting it, they publish what it is that they have deemed to be what it is that the process of the data gathering has informed them. And in so doing, certain things will be written about. Certain things will be communicated through ink and pen. Certain things will not be pleasing to many. Lest we forget, it is not the role of journalism to make people comfortable.
Yes. Lest we forget that the government has taken a position on matters to do with abductions in this country. Lest we forget that even before the government was formed in a place called Sololo in Marsabit County, when the president, then deputy president, took a position and said that in his government, extrajudicial killings and abductions would be a thing of the end. And if I could just quote what the president said, in July of 2022, mambo ya kuwa wananchi kiholela, mambo ya kusemekana kuwa vijana wamebebwa na hawajulikani walipo, hiyo maneno itaisha. Extrajudicial killings must come to an end and stop because it is illegal and unconstitutional. That is July 6th, 2022, when the president said the Kenya Kwanza Alliance commits to completing the full implementations of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and to promote the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 16 on peace, justice, and strong institutions. Lest we forget, it is the work of the media to bring this thing forth, to keep you in check, and to make sure that the promises you made are actually kept. Lest we forget that those who have disappeared, Brian, Mukuria, the families need answers, and only government can give the answers.
I want to jump on what you said, CT, and I think that oftentimes when we report on these things, when the scribes write, when the voices behind the microphone speak, when the images behind the camera actually come out and say certain things, it is not to mollycoddle anybody. It is to spit the truth. It is to bring out the facts. It is not about emotions. It is not romanticizing a situation. It is about telling the truth, and it is about pricking the conscience of people to think in a particular direction. Because if something is not true, it is not true. And on the other hand, if something is true, it is true. If you do make a promise to someone a year ago, and you tell them that you are going to do this, 365 days later, it has not happened, and you report that this has not happened, do you speak a lie or do you speak the truth? You are actually reporting and saying you promised that this was going to be done. It has not been done, and you report on that. You have done your duty in making sure that people know. When we tell you that do not forget that the president actually said that extrajudicial killings will be a thing of the past, that abducting people in the dead of night or under the, in broad daylight will not happen. But in the very next year, we see that over 100 people have been abducted in the name of making political statements. Do we do an injustice by not speaking about it? Lest we forget that these things were said in public.
Yes.
That these promises were made in public. Yes. That these assurances were given to Kenyans in public. They were not under the cover of darkness. You gave Kenyans an opportunity to embrace a new reality whereby they could say what they felt. They could express what they feel. They could talk about their frustrations. But unfortunately, we have then heard the most harrowing stories of what happened to people who were taken because of what they wrote on what is now new media, of what they said, of whom they associated with. So when we report on those matters, do we speak the lies? In this room, we say that we will comfort the we will not comfort. We will comfort the afflicted and we will afflict the comfortable. That you cannot continue to get away with the things that you do when they come against the very constitution that you swear to protect. And we have a duty and we have a role to talk about those things. And we have a role to make sure that these things come out to light. When we talk about citizen-centered governance, these are the things that we talk about. Lest we forget that there were promises that were made in broad daylight.
Yes.
And if those promises are not kept, we will talk about the fact that they were not kept, not under the cover of darkness, but in broad daylight.
Yes.
When we look at our functions as a media house, if we look at our functions as purveyors of journalism, the sentry function that we have essentially makes us what you call gatekeepers. But we keep the gate of information that we have received over time. We store the information. We have the information. When we talk a pattern that has emerged, it is because the information we've gathered over time has given us the leeway to arrive at a certain conclusion. And these conclusions are based on facts. Are we therefore saying that we do not make mistakes? We most certainly do. Are we saying that we are unwilling to correct our mistakes? Oh no, we are very willing not only to correct our mistakes, but to admit that we have made them. But by the same token, do you throw the baby out with the bath water? We are not saying that there are things that the government in place has not done. That is not what we are saying, because we do communicate the things that have been done. We do communicate the positivity that we see. But by the same token, a wholesome picture of the situation, whether it is of the economic nature, whether it is of the political nature, whether it is of the social nature, we'll take the simplistic view that it doesn't have one side. And we will report on all the sides. And in so reporting on all the sides, there will be people who will not be pleased with whatever communication we have. That also is their right.
Indeed.
Yes.
It is.
City, we speak about reports. Let me give out some reports and numbers. 2021, more than 30 Kenyans and foreigners went missing. Now let's jump over to 2024. Now, November 21st, State of the Nation address, the president acknowledged that kidnappings and abductions had actually increased. We talk about the likes of Denzel Omondi, who disappeared and was found dead. We talk about Brian, who is 2 months and 12 days today missing. We talk about April 2nd, 2025, a notable increase in abductions, that is to September 2023 to August 2024, 52 kidnappings, marking 44% rise from the cases reported in 2022. We talk about June 2024 to December 2024, KNCHR documented 82 abductions. Now, December 2024, cases remain at 29 individuals still missing. And we also talk about June 2024 to November 2024. IG Kanja says 57 abduction cases, 22 found alive, 6 dead, and 29 missing. This is the data, the report that we have. When we report these numbers, what exactly are we saying? We're communicating the facts, the numbers of individuals and Kenyans who have disappeared in this republic.
Indeed. Now, when we look at some of the things that were said, it's essentially that we're going to do, we've had conversation in this room about when you make promises and when you say certain things, are you doing that to pander to the whims of a crowd? Or when you sit in a room and you read off a piece of paper, are you saying it so that you get people on your side? Let's look at what was said that would be done on certain things. There were promises that were made. Agriculture and food security. The president said that he pledged to invest at least 250 billion shillings in 5 years to boost the sector. He pledged to transform 2 million poor farmers from food deficit to surplus producers. We've still got 2 years. Let's see if that'll be done. MSMEs and financing. He says they would provide 50 billion shillings every year to provide reliable access to credit, and this was supposed to be in the Hustler Fund. Have we seen 50 billion shillings in the Hustler Fund every year since it came into inception? Affordable housing. 250,000 houses were to be built in the country every year. Have we seen one set of 250,000 houses yet to be completed in this public-private partnership? And this was to be coming from the housing levy. Health access. On the health pillar, the president promised a fully publicly funded primary healthcare system. The plan also proposed to establish 6 new level 6 hospitals in 6 new sites, hiring an initial 20,000 health workers. Your guess is as good as mine as to whether that has happened so far. It was supposed to be done through the establishment of 4 bills, the bills having been established, but do we see that those things have actually happened? ICT and the creative economy. The ICT, the president said he promised to construct 100,000 kilometer fiber optic connectivity network, roll out fiber to counties, villages, schools, over 24,000 businesses and homes, and he would establish Africa Regional Hub and promote the development of software for export from Kenya. Tell me if that has happened so far. So, how is he doing with these promises? He's made 182 promises in total. 12 have been completed. 54 are ongoing. 95 are yet to start. 1 has stalled. Another has been modified. And of those, 19 have been broken. The first year promises were short-term goals. They were to be achieved within the first year of office. There were 71 promises. Out of those, 47 are yet to start. 22 are ongoing. 1 is complete and 1 is broken. These are the things you said to Kenyans that you would do. Just this last month, you also said that you would complete by the end of this year. Actually, in the person of the deputy president, now walking with the president, said that at the end of 2025, all, not some, not a few, not almost everything, but all uncompleted road projects in the country would be completed by December 2025. This is what he said in January this year, that by December 2025, all uncompleted road projects would be completed by December 2025. These are the things that you continue to tell Kenyans on a daily basis. And one must ask, will they actually be done? Lest we forget, you were not forced to say it. You were not tied and shackled and bound and told to say this so that Kenyans would hear what you're saying. But you did. And Kenyans listened. And they took you at your word. Will you actually fulfill?
Is someone to be at fault if they believe what you say? If someone is at fault, if they are then disappointed that what you said did not happen as you have said it, how then do we remedy such a situation? Lest we forget, we have a culture in this country where leadership abhors being told about the things they have not done. It is a culture that appears to be entrenched. And it is political leadership across the board. Political leadership have acquired a taste for hearing tunes that are pleasant to their hearing. They are accustomed to praise singers and cheerleaders. They are accustomed to saying for the sake of saying and not following up with what needs to be done. Every single year, lest we forget, the Auditor General reports on the activities of the counties. Every single year, without fail, the Auditor General points out in detail the things that have been said, funds that cannot be accounted for. Every single year, these reports are given to Parliament to act upon. Every single year, one does not see anything meaningful being done to either unearth and make clear the questions which were raised and yet remain unanswered. Very little is done by this same Parliament when it comes to ensuring that the citizens' monies that come in the share that the counties are given, these shares do not meet the required demands of the projects that were budgeted for, and they do not meet the requirements and the needs of the citizenry. If they did, the Auditor General's reports every single year would be very thin. But every single year, that report keeps growing. So lest we forget, Parliament talks about doing their job. Parliament talks about ensuring that they hold the executive to account. But what instead one witnesses in this country is a situation where Parliament has formed a choir. And what the choir does is the choir sings to the tune
Absolutely.
of the executive.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break at this point. It's 28 minutes to 8 o'clock. But lest we forget that people remember what you say. That is something that you must remember. And perhaps to even say at this point, it's okay to stop promising. It's okay to actually stand before a group of people, before Kenyans who you are leading in this position, at whatever level. It is okay to actually say we're taking stock of the developments that's happening in the country. We're taking stock of how money is being spent. We're taking stock about how resources are being distributed. And now we are making sure that the things that we said, we are actually doing them. It really is okay to not promise anymore. It really is okay for you to just say, let's just look at what we are doing at the moment and now make sure that we do it to the best of our ability. You don't have to promise anymore. The truth is that nobody actually expects you to do anything beyond what you said that you would that's actually not working. Lest you forget, people remember what you say.
This is the weather with SpiceFM.
All right, looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, we will then see later highs of 26 and lows of 16. We're looking also into Nakuru, where we will see highs of 26 and lows of 13. 14 and sunny into Nyeri, we'll see highs of 14 and rather highs of 26 and lows of 14, and it is sunny in Eldoret, where we will see highs of 26 and lows of 13. And we're looking into a sunny Mombasa, where we will see highs of 33 and lows of 26, and Malindi will see highs of 33 and lows of 27. Kisumu is sunny at 21 with highs of 29, and Kakamega at 19 is sunny, going to highs of 29. Kampala cloudy at 20 with highs of 27, while Dar es Salaam is cloudy at 24. We will see highs of 29. Johannesburg at 13 is sunny with highs of 21, while at 29 it's sunny into Mogadishu with highs of 32. Addis Ababa is sunny at 11 with highs of 26, while Lagos cloudy at 28 will go to highs of 32, and Kinshasa at 22 is cloudy, going to highs of 32.
Spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, looking at heavy traffic on the Thika Superhighway this morning, getting into the city, and as you go towards Pangani at the underpass, it then gets really messy. As you come in before the Allsops Junction, traffic coming in from Githurai, bumper to bumper. It's going really slowly this morning. We are in traffic hour. That's what it looks like right about now. Langata Road, as you come off of Magadi Road, and then also from traffic coming in from Karen, it's going to find you all the way past Uhuru Gardens, out then towards the barracks, and then on towards the roundabout at Nyayo Stadium. Very busy. Room also trying to get onto Huru Highway. Busy. Kiambu Road is busy. As you then approach Wangari Maathai Highway and then go towards museums and then on towards Chiromo, very busy. And all your inroads there, Ojiji Road and out then towards Parklands, busy as well. It's also busy coming off of Limuru Road this morning, so watching out for that as well. We are in traffic hour, folks. Let's talk about where you might be stuck or where you find a good route this morning. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Call me. is one of the things the president has said recently, if you remember, that if something is not done by a particular date, call me. I don't know if you put his number on a placard somewhere and said, here's my phone number and call me. And most recently, we heard that the Higher Education Loans Board was supposed to have deposited money in the accounts of students by the Friday that the president was speaking. Lest you forget, you told Kenyans that if they had not received their money for help, that they would call you personally and that you'd be able to sort out the problem. Lest we forget that people remember what you say to them. Lest we forget, then yesterday also, what did we hear? That if this road in this particular area, and he was speaking to residents in parts of Laikipia, Sagana yesterday, and said, if this road has not been completed or if this money is not released, again, call me personally. When such things are being said, do you actually think that people won't call you?
The thing is, Kenyans will call you, and if Kenyans will not call you personally, they will post these things on the social media, because social media has become their place to go. Lest we forget that Kenyans have also read this constitution and understand the requirements of them expressing themselves, and expressing themselves Kenyans have done. Lest we forget that it is the very same president as well during the 2022 presidential elections who promised not to hike taxes to Kenyans. Yet the president in 2024 said, emphasized the need to raise Kenya's tax to GDP ratio from 14 to 20%, then to 21%, then to 22% by the end of his term. Lest we forget that the president at that point was going against the promises that he gave to Kenyans. Lest we forget that Kenyans have spoken, and Kenyans spoke during the June 25th opposing the Finance Bill 2024. And Kenyans spoke, because Kenyans did not forget the promises that you made to them. Lest we forget, Mr. President, lest we forget that Kenyans have the right to speak, that Kenyans will always speak, and that when we cover these things, it is not because we despise, but because we have to communicate and tell the people what is happening.
Lest we forget the presidency is a continuum. Lest we also forget the utterances that are made by politicians who end up being elected into high places or offices like the president and the deputy are servants of the people. Lest we forget, there is always the narrative and the reality of what they have inherited. Lest we forget, they know what they have inherited and they know what to do. Lest we forget, the debts that we have were not all accumulated in the time of this particular administration. The administration of Uhuru Kenyatta went on a borrowing spree. And they borrowed, and they borrowed, and they borrowed. And even then questions arose as to whether the total amount that were borrowed had actually gone into the projected developments that ostensibly they had been borrowed for. If that did not happen, those who lent us the money really don't give a hoot. They lent us the money, we agreed to pay them back by a certain time, and they will come asking for their pound of flesh. Lest we forget, this economy doesn't run on promises. It runs on deeds and activities that are put in place based on the planning that the country and those who are expert in doing so have done. Lest we forget, if the economy doesn't work, then everything that we have and believe in will not work. Lest we forget, every arm of government has a duty. Every arm of government is responsible and is accountable to the citizenry of this country. And we, in the media, we who practice journalism, are not only purveyors of this information, not only are we gatekeepers of this information, but we also act as a repository of this information. And this same information is what we relay back. This is what we have seen. This is a sum total of what we have understood. This is a sum total of how we have distilled it. And this is our understanding of the end analysis that we have. Lest we forget, there are no two countries on this particular continent called Kenya. It is this one. Lest we forget, the things that are done in the name of the citizenry and in the name of ensuring that the livelihood of the citizenry is improved, the things that are said, if not translated into action, will bring about a situation where promises are broken. And when promises are broken, what then do we say of the person and the individuals who made those promises? Lest we forget, the future beckons all of us. And there are consequences for everything that we do. Lest we forget.
Just looking at some of the comments that come in from you this morning, Bob says, this is a government that can go out of its way to supply umbrellas to Turkana expecting rain. This was not this was not something that was made up. And this is the lest we forget. These are kind of things that we are talking about. And this is the thing that we say, lest we forget, you already have a situation that is tumbling out of control. Lest we forget that, yes, there are abductions that have taken place, that there are people missing. Lest we forget there's 67 billion shillings that is owed to schools in terms of capitation that didn't go to schools, for them to sort out statutory deductions, for them to sort out employee salaries, for them to sort out infrastructure within their schools that would ensure that they're working today. Lest we forget 7 billion shillings from this term is yet to be paid. 60 billion shillings from the last 5 years, 2023, 2024, 2022, 2023, 2024, and now into 2025, 67 billion shillings. That's the total. Lest we forget, that money is still owed. Lest we forget the very promise of a health system that was supposed to be working, the promise that was remade. And I mean, let's give credit where it's due, but the promise that was remade on a new administration, the same promise was made. It was one of the big four agenda to make sure that universal healthcare was a thing. It came and a new promise was made in 2022. Lest we forget that system, if anything, is still hobbling while crawling. Lest we forget that the road infrastructure in this country was already terrible. And now we are here making promises on money that Kenya does not have. And that is the truth. Lest we forget, Kenya owes money that in 2025, 117 million is supposed to be paid. We're looking at $1 billion. I beg your pardon, billion. 117 billion shillings is owed. There's no I beg. There's no please hold on. Money in Naiva, I will pay you next week on Tuesday. No. When it's owed, it's owed. We're looking at a similar amount that's supposed to be paid the next year, 2026, and another amount in 2027. We're looking at another amount almost doubling that is owed in 2023. The CS in in Treasury has not been shy about making these things known. Lest we forget, Kenya owes a bucket load of money to international lenders. And we're looking at that at the expense of an economy which is already on its knees, lest we forget that there are many things that were supposed to have been done in previous administrations, lest we forget that there's a pride and integrity that comes with actually saying, you know what, my job would have been to finish those things which my predecessors did not, rather than for me to make new promises on the back of money that the country just does not have. How about we finish those? Lest we forget that you have no business getting into new business if your people cannot eat, if your sick cannot be treated, if your children cannot go to school, if you have children who are in schools where it rains on them every day, if they have to sit under trees. Lest we forget that there are schools in this country where children are sitting on stones under the cover of trees. Lest we forget that there are mothers and fathers who are crying because their children disappeared, they do not know where they are. Lest we forget that there are people in this country every day who go without food. Lest we forget that there are people who are trying to make a living that cannot get a license to do business. Lest we forget that there are people who are in remand who cannot afford bail, and you do not have an office of a public prosecutor. Lest we forget these things are happening in Kenya today, and you're making promises in the millions which you cannot afford. Lest we forget you have no business doing any other business if your people cannot eat, if your sick cannot be cared for, if your children cannot go to school in a system that actually caters for their needs at a foundational level. Lest we forget you have no business making promises on the back of other failed promises. Lest we forget we are living in a reality that needs to be fixed today. Lest we forget nobody will blame you if you came out and you said those things that they said they were going to do which they didn't do. Let me be the one to finish them. Let me be the one to make it work. Lest we forget, you cannot tax anybody towards economic development. Lest we forget, the things that you want to build, Kenyans cannot afford them. Lest we forget that there are parts of this country whereby people don't see clean water. Lest we forget that there are people who cannot go to hospital. Lest we forget that there are mothers who cannot go to hospital and they give birth to children in their homes under the danger of childbirth. These are things that are happening in the country today, lest we forget. We have no business making new promises when the old ones have not been fulfilled, and when you have a situation that is already dire, and when you owe so much. Lest we forget, you cannot start something new when the old has not been fulfilled. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget that this entire conversation surrounds people. We're talking about lives. We're talking about individuals who walk up to go vote. We're talking about individuals who, on a daily basis, try to access healthcare that they can't afford, healthcare that is non-existent. Lest we forget that we talk about individuals who are no longer able to take their children to school because the system that is in place is not working for them, is not favoring them. People find themselves in bonds that they don't know how it works. We find ourselves in situations where parents are not able to pay school fees because apparently you said they need to pay using e-citizen. Today the court has spoken against that. Yet Kenyans spoke against this, but you chose not to listen to them. Lest we forget that on a daily basis, Kenyans are burying their very loved ones because healthcare wasn't there at their hour of need. Lest we forget that we live in a country where thugs are robbing Kenyans in broad daylight before the police officers and nothing is being done. Lest we forget that it is in presidential events where the president enjoys extreme protection, but the citizenry who put him there are being robbed in broad daylight and nothing is being done about it. We live in a country where you walk into a police station to report a case and they dismiss you simply because they have spoken with someone who has money and has put them where they belong. Lest we forget that it is service to humanity. Lest we forget that children in this country years to come, what generation are we raising? And like City usually says, what are we doing? Because this is a cycle. We are bringing up a generation that will ask us in the future, what did you do with the opportunities that we give you? Lest we forget.
We're going to take some of your calls this morning, 0719012600, and we'll hear from you. Things that we absolutely cannot forget. We will remember them and we will talk about them until something is done. We'll take your calls this morning. Good morning, Kiprotich. Good morning. Hello, Kiprotich.
Hello.
Yes, we want to hear from you this morning. Please let us know what your thoughts are.
This is Kiprotich Renato from Bomet.
Yes.
The problem with this country is the failure of leadership. It's either they are unwilling or they are unable to rise up to the occasion and take up the responsibility of service delivery. I remember around 2 years ago, we elected a new dispensation thinking that they will, that were full of promises, thinking that they will take us to the promised land. But the problem that we are looking today is that the rich and the poor, or the gap between the rich and the poor, is widening day in, day out. Fake promises are still being made. Today, we cannot differentiate between the executive and the legislature. But thank God that we have the Gen Zs. You know, we have a different lot of generation that is questioning without any fear. The economy is not, the housing that was promised, nothing is going on. The problem with the Shah, you saw Duale yesterday, when he was taking up the office, people were demonstrating outside. What kind of an image is that? Education, the CPC implementation is a problem. Network connectivity, nothing at all is going on. What we need to do as a citizenry is to hold this leadership accountable. Wherever we find them, wherever we see them on the roads, let us question them. Let us go to the media. Let us ask them. Let us demand for what they are promising. And they should fulfill what was initially started before beginning the new fake promises, because after all, they are all fake.
Thank you very much for your comments, Kiprotich. Thank you so much for sharing those with us today. Indeed, we must speak up. All right, let's take a call from Raymond in Kericho. Raymond, good morning.
Morning, madam.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Let us know what your thoughts are, Raymond.
Yeah, I want to talk about the opposition leader, Raila Odinga. He came to government, and I think this is one of the most, let me say, Raila Odinga did what was we did not expect him to do, coming to government. And normally, Raila Odinga is actually a savior to our problems, but joining government is beyond what we expected. For instance, when we saw how they were fighting one another, Raila and Ruto, before, or rather, before the general election, 2022 general election, we didn't expect them to come together. But now, this is the opposite of what we expected. So, we Kenyans, we've been left alone. So we feel as if we have no one to fight for our rights. For example, you've talked about us Kenyans being so forgetful, and that's true. We are very forgetful. We said yesterday, President William Ruto went to Mount Kenya. Imagine relaunching projects that was told, which actually the former president launched. So I was asking myself, are we so forgetful that we tend to be lied to launching the projects that were launched by previous regime, and we are not sure if these projects are going to be completed.
Not indeed. I mean, look, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just want to hear from one more person this morning. But Raymond, indeed, you're right. We cannot forget. We definitely cannot forget. Let's take a call now from Abito in Migori. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing, Abito?
Oh, Sabato, I'm doing fine.
Oh, sorry, Sabato. Tell us your thoughts this morning, please.
Yes, lest we forget. This country, we are servicing debts which were borrowed without citizens' consent, but then they were taken to like ghost projects. We are servicing debts that you cannot point that it was meant for this project, and it was done. And so it's a big problem, because even in banks, they give loans, and if they're giving loans to a project, they commit, and then they hold something like a security. But then here we come to a situation where we have governments that go out and borrow in the name of the country and expect citizens to pay with taxes, but then these monies end up in individual pockets or in their bank accounts offshore, and there's no accountability. So how do we start servicing loans that never came into the country, and we are still comfortable about it? So it's a sham that such things can happen, and it can't be fixed. That somebody can just wake up because he's in government and say, today I'm going to borrow a loan to do X, Y, Z, and then they end up, conspiring with the external bodies and corrupt individuals and having these monies in the name of a country, and it all disappears, and the taxpayer is, left with the burden to pay it up. So it's a shame that we should not stand in this country again.
Thank you very much for your thoughts on that, Sabato.
Sure.
I appreciate you sharing that with us today. Thank you so much. And we have these conversations because truly we cannot forget. We cannot forget about certain things that were said. And when it comes to, oftentimes we're asked the question, so then how do people actually, contribute? How do you contribute to governance? How do you contribute to make sure that it is citizen-centric? It's by not forgetting some of these conversations. It's by remembering things that were said. It's by remembering things that were done or that were not done. It's by remembering your position and what you should actually play. CT?
Lest we forget, there are agencies within the government whose functions may not be made public. And yet, we know of them and we hear of them when untoward things happen and we are unhappy. Nobody ever writes or nobody ever talks about the number of terrorist threats that are thwarted within the country. Nobody ever talks about military interventions that are quiet by nature. Nobody ever talks about the successes of what the police service have done over time and the cases they have resolved, save for the few that are actually reported in the daily papers or are spoken of in broadcast media. Lest we forget that segments of this particular society that we refer to as Kenya function, and in many ways they could function a lot better. Lest we forget the functions that we see and the fractured nature that we see some operating in are a factor of leadership. Lest we forget, leadership is not leadership if they are not held to account. Lest we forget, the citizenry, as a sovereign of this particular nation, have that duty, and they must not shirk that duty. Neither must they sell it, neither must they surrender it to anybody else. The primary function and the primary responsibility of what happens in this nation is a preserve of the citizenry. The citizenry is the sovereign, lest we forget.
Indeed.
Lest we forget that as the citizenry of this republic, the responsibility is equally in our hands. That we must stand up and do right by ourselves. That we must stand up, rise to the occasion and say no to bribery. We need to stop taking the handouts and say, let go, deliver to us. It is our responsibility as well as the citizenry. We can talk about the government every day, but what are we doing from our own backyards?
Indeed. There are many things that we can do. There are many things that we can say, and there are many ways in which we can act. But one of the things that we must absolutely never do is forget. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. It has been 10 years since terrorists struck Garissa University and killed at least 148 people, the majority of them students. On April 2nd, 2025, 4 gunmen stormed Garissa University and started to shoot randomly, killing 148 people. It was an attack that shook the world. To security chiefs, terrorism still remains a threat. They, however, argue they are doing everything possible to address the menace. Few parts of Kenya, especially the northern part and some in Lamu, are facing incidents of terror-related attacks linked to the Al-Shabaab terror group, which was responsible for the university massacre. The 9-member Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission selection panel is expected to continue interviewing candidates seeking to become members of the Electoral Commission. The panel is seeking to recruit 6 members out of the 110 candidates that were shortlisted. The interviews follow the finalization of the chairperson's interviews, where prominent names including Charles Nyachai, Anna Madi and Joy Mudivo are gunning for the top job. Given the higher number of the candidates that have to be interviewed for the IBC member positions, National Assembly Leader of the Minority Party, Janet Mohammed, is seeking to extend the tenure of the 9-member IBC selection panel by 14 days. In a notice of motion at the National Assembly yesterday, Janet argued that given the number of candidates the panel has to interview, there is a need for the extension. Police officers are expected to arraign Pastor Julius Kimutai of the Mujiza Deliverance Church in Ombaso County after he was caught carrying suspected human bones and other strange objects. The preacher was arrested with his companion Baraka Tsuma while they were conducting a religious service with a group of women at a golf course. Kilifi County DCI officer David Siele said the bones have been sent for forensic examination to confirm whether they are human or not. According to villagers, the pastor has been visiting the area and talking to some of the women every Monday and Tuesday for the past 2 months. Ronald Nzai, a preacher and resident of the village, has indicated that there are strategies in place to control the construction of churches in the area.
Tukaangalia ile issue ya Shakahola kwamba lazima hapa Chonyi tuwe na mikakati ambayo hatuwezi kuruhusu watu kuja kufungua makanisa ovyo, lakini wapitie kwa Chonyi Council of Bishops. Sasa akipitia huko atazungumza, halafu administration itajua na itafanya utafiti wa huyo ambaye ataka kuanzisha kanisa hapa, ili kuavoid these mushroom churches. Watu wanakuja from nowhere, asema atakuanzisha kanisa, we don't have to doctrines zake ni ipi, anaweza kuja hapa akaleta false doctrines, kwa conflicts na zingine tukapata shida.
4 staff members at the Budi by Design Clinic in Nairobi are set to face manslaughter charges today over the death of one Lucy Wambui, a patient who died after undergoing plastic surgery at the clinic last year. The suspects, Robert Maweu, a surgeon, George Wakaria, Lillian Ednah, the proprietor of Budi by Design Hospital, were expected to appear in court yesterday for plea taking but failed to do so. Kibra High Court Judge Samson Timu ordered them to appear in court today or face a warrant of arrest. Lucy died in October last year.
This is almost the second time the matter is coming up in court. The defense was aware that at the end of the day they were one day going to be charged. They should have moved the High Court for other orders, but they kept quiet till now. They requested for a date at their own discretion, at their own speed. The defense, the prosecution has requested for warrants. To balance the wheels of justice, I do direct that the accused person do appear before me tomorrow at 9 a.m.
That's the news wire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, taking a look at what's happening in traffic now. Still pretty busy coming off of the Thika Superhighway, and we'll probably see some of this still for some time as we are still in the middle of it, in the thick of it, as it were. As you come from that junction coming in from Allsops, it's very tricky as you get towards Survey. So that's busy. It'll take you through towards the Pangani Underpass. It's quite some traffic coming off of Wangari Maathai Way, and it heads towards the Chiromo area. Also, so coming off of Waiaki Way, it's going to be busy because you're going to meet with all of that traffic coming in, doing the business there. Limuru Road is also busy. It's coming through Muthaiga, and then some of it will find its way into Muthaiga. Other parts of this traffic is going out through towards Parklands and then into the city. So that's very busy right about now. Langata Road, busy. It's going to cross over Uhuru Gardens and then out towards the junction. Some of it will go towards Raila Odinga Way, connecting with traffic that's also coming off of Ngong Road. Doesn't matter where you go this morning, you're going to find some traffic, that's for sure. And as you come off of Mombasa Road, as you approach Bellevue, lots of traffic as well, heading out towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. So we're going to keep an eye on all of this. We're still in traffic hour. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Traffic updates brought to you by I&M Bank. Don't just spend, earn while at it. The I&M Bank Milele Rewards makes every swipe count. Earn every point on every purchase and redeem them for flights, shopping and more. Plus, every 20th customer to get the card gets 50,000 Milele Reward points worth 50,000 shillings.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Into the second hour of Kenya's, or rather third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning, wherever it is that you're tuned in around the country and the world, essentially. This is the Situation Room, and as we are going to be getting into a number of other conversations this hour, Karibu Sana. Right, so we continue with telling you that you have until the 21st of April to do what?
To apply. And to apply through the ALX pathways to get connected to some of the best global universities that young people want to join. And just some of the universities we're talking about. We're talking about Vanderbilt University, Macalester College. You talk about Patton University, Hamilton College, Bates College, Tufts University, UC Berkeley, or the University of Chicago. And this is just but a glimpse of all the university networks that ALX Pathway connects you to. Now, ALX says that there are few university partners you get access to, and ALX Pathway opens doors to these universities and much, much more. So what do you need to do? Go apply. Where do you go apply? ALX Pathways through bit.ly, that is bit.ly/ALX Pathway SFM. Deadline April 21st. Go apply.
For you, there's no deadline. For you will spend. spend it, and even earn more. So why apply a deadline?
Well, look at it this way. Let's do a little math, shall we?
Okay.
Simple maths. Addition.
Yes.
I&M Bank on the Go platform equals World Credit MasterCard.
Okay.
By I&M. Equals Milele points.
Okay.
Equals spending. Equals more Milele points. Equals more spending equals more Milele points. If you happen to be the 20th person who has registered on the I&M Bank on the Go platform, you will receive 50,000 of the said Milele points. Now, these Milele points will be used in the same way as you would use the card.
Fantastic.
You can buy, and then you can buy. What can you buy? Same things you always buy, whether you need it for fuel, whether you need it for food, whether you need a ticket to fly, it is up to you.
Get the card, spend, earn, spend some more.
Earn some more.
And earn some more.
Yes.
Doesn't get better than that. Absolutely sharing more information with you as we go along on these things. All right. So we're getting into a conversation this morning, long time coming, with Advocate Charles Kanjama, who is in the hot seat of the Situation Room this morning. Wakili, good morning.
Good morning to you.
How are you doing?
Very well.
We say finally. When you've chased and tried, and then it finally happens, you use the word finally. So very happy to have you in the hot seat of the Situation Room.
I'm also happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, good. I'm glad that you honored the invitation. And no sooner than had you got here than we put you to work, because CT, as you may know, goes around the African continent every week. Don't ask me how I keep saying. We'll just take it as it goes, right? So he comes back from a different African country with a basket full of proverbs. He's going to share that country and the proverb, and then we will ask you how you would interpret that. Is that all right?
That's okay.
Okay.
We are in the Comoros. It's an archipelago in the Indian Ocean. The largest of the islands that form this archipelago is one called Moroni. Moroni, not Muhoroni where I come from. Yes. Moroni. Though some people refer to Muhoroni as Moroni.
Yeah.
Yes. And Moroni also happens to be the capital of this delightful country. Now, the proverb is actually a very simple one, straightforward and easy to interpret. Where there are riches, thieves abound. If the riches are large, the thieves are as big.
I think where there is abundance, you always need to protect your abundance. There's always a threat to abundance. Prosperity is always surrounded by threats that can diminish the prosperity. And I think riches is not only material riches, but any kind of prosperity. You always need to preserve and protect it.
You absolutely correct. And you put it well. You've responded and even contextualized.
It is great. So you do need to protect it.
Yes.
There is an abundance. There is, there's wealth. There's prosperity. There's something you need to protect it. There's sacredness that you then must protect because somebody's going to want to take it. Now, it's along those lines, I think, that we even have the conversation that we have this morning, because we're looking at the IEBC, the constitution of the same, we're looking at timelines, and we're looking at, thresholds through which we then should not play outside of. And we're looking at it all from a legal point of view. And why we do that is because there needs to be an understanding across board of, essentially what we're being fed.
Yeah.
There's a process that seems to be taking place over there. There's a selection of some people. It's happening over there. When they're done, they shall present them to you and let you know that this is what we've done and this is how we're going to go ahead. But then there's also the side of citizen-centered governance where you say, no, we need to be aware of everything that is happening and understand the process so that when they are presented, then we can actually say, fine, we understand and accept, or no, we don't understand or we don't accept. Now, essentially, what is happening with the IEBC? Let's go back before the selection process, whereby after 2022, the IEBC, for all intents and purposes of functionality, for some things then did not exist.
Exactly.
Because now no commissioners, no chair, the office continued to run. But what happened along the line is that you have some people, by virtue of natural occurrences like death, or because of appointments, they had to relinquish their seats.
Yeah.
The law says that within 90 days you should have a by-election. Yes. But some things we were not able to do because, again, no functioning IEBC.
Yeah.
So those processes and their vacancies then became unconstitutional. But we still continue to operate as though nothing happened.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Definitely not. I think the country has witnessed a period of failure of our constitutional processes. This has taken close to 2 years. And unfortunately, each of the three arms of government is partly to blame. For more than a year, there was a case in court, or more than one case in court, that stopped certain constitutional processes as people were contesting the composition of the selection panel. And for some period in time, there was a stalemate in parliament because the opposition, or at least Azimio, which was the opposition coalition, was again contesting the makeup of the first schedule of the IEBC Act, which of course had been a compromise between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga before the last elections, but it did not seem appropriate after the elections. And then, of course, the executive also failed to do a part of its job. It is required that when a vacancy is about to arise in a composition of IEBC, that a gazette notice is issued to declare the vacancy 6 months before the vacancy arises, when it is a vacancy that can be anticipated because of end of term. And if it is by resignation, as soon as possible. And it's meant to trigger a process, and that process involves appointment of a selection panel. We know that the selection panel was first appointed more than a year ago. And then there was a stalemate because of NADCO, the National Dialogue process that involved the president and the former prime minister and their lieutenants.
Yeah.
So again, there was a stalemate. And so what happened is that IBC has been without a commission for more than 12 months. And the Supreme Court has been very clear that a constitutional commission like IBC cannot undertake any substantive action that requires policy decision in the absence of commissioners. So they have the entire secretariat, they have the CEO who runs the secretariat, but they cannot undertake actions like elections, like boundaries delimitation. This was meant to be done last year. 2024 was the deadline for boundaries delimitation. It was not done. Of course, by-elections were not done. Any other policy actions require IBC. In fact, there was only one major decision of IBC that somehow escaped this restriction of the Supreme Court, which was the decision that the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua should be removed, and that the incoming, the one who came in, was qualified to be a Deputy President. That one somehow sneaked through the restriction of the court that any important decision requires commissioners. So then once the selection panel now is in place, because the court has done its bit, the High Court has gone to the Court of Appeal, because Parliament has done its bit, they have nominated representative of the majority coalition, the minority coalition. The political parties liaison committee has also done its bit. It nominated its people. The Law Society, Institute of Certified Public Accountants, they all nominated their people.
Yeah.
And the executive also did its bit. Now we are going through the selection panel process. And what you expect will come out of this process is that the selection panel will nominate 2 persons, possibly a man and a woman, for consideration as the chair of IBC.
By the president?
By the president.
Okay.
And they'll also nominate 9 persons using the gender ratio of not more than 2/3 of either gender for, again, consideration by the president for member of the IBC. And the president will have 7 days from the 2 names he gets for a chair to pick one of the 2. And for the 9 names he gets for member, to pick 6 of them. That one person that the president picks for chair and the 6 people that he picks for a member of IBC will then be forwarded to Parliament. And Parliament will then vet them and approve them or reject them, as the case may be. And once that is done, then you will have an IBC fully constituted. Once the IBC is constituted, they have a lot on their plate, agenda that is waiting for them. The entry includes by-elections that are pending for constituency and ward level, the seats that are vacant. It also includes boundary delimitation. And for boundary delimitation, they need to prepare a report based on the constitutional principles that are found in Article 89 of the Constitution, the most significant of which is the population formula.
Right.
Because there are other criteria to consider, but there is a population formula that says you cannot have less than this or more than this in terms of proportionality of the population. And based on that, some counties will get less constituencies and less wards, and some will get more constituencies and wards. The new constituencies and wards have to be given names. That report will be presented to Parliament, and Parliament will debate, can amend it, pass it, and so on. So that is a lot of the work that needs to be done. And of course, is a process of preparation for the next elections, which includes review of the laws and the electoral policies, the regulations, possible amendments of any area where there has been an issue.
Right.
There are issues of procurement, the biometric voter registration, the electronic voter identification, all those kits. After 5 years or 10 years of usage, technology changes.
Yes.
You need to procure new ones. Some of them are out of form. There is a continuous voter registration, including a major voter registration exercise. Because you see, the continuing voter registration happens at the constituency headquarters. Very few people are aware of it. So you need the major exercise where they get many people appointed on temporary terms.
Yeah.
They go to every constituency and ward. They say for 1 month, we're encouraging people to come and register or to change their place of voting. So there's a lot of work that they need to do, all within the next 12 to 18 months.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done. I mean, if budgeting alone is ridiculously crazy when you think of the things that need to be done towards the next election. And it's interesting that you mentioned continuous voter registration, and these are some of the functionalities that we talk about that continue to happen even from the headquarters of the IEBC, unbeknownst to so many people.
Yes.
But somehow, still, we seem to find room for the subjective focus on whether the decisions then made as to who will be the commissioners and the chairperson of the IEBC have any kind of political tint to it. We still seem to find the room to discuss that. We've seen, as of yesterday, already there is a suggestion that folks are already not happy with the partisanship, essentially, that could play out in this process. From your point of view, from a legal, from a constitutional point of view, is that something to worry about?
Definitely, IBC has to be involved in the task of public participation, stakeholder engagement, and confidence building. And the most important stakeholders for IBC is actually political parties. And we know they are very fractious. Even within the political parties themselves, they tend to have issues of indiscipline, disagreement. There's a social dimension that may not appear when you read the pages of the constitution or the law. But good commissioners of IBC have to be aware of this. They have to be strictly impartial. At the same time, they have to listen to all the people who have concerns. And they need to demonstrate an ability to engage with the concerns of the political players. Of course, every voter is a stakeholder for IBC. That is why it is one of the most important constitutional commissions in Kenya. But I would not dismiss any concerns that are made by political players, because these political players are the people who make or break elections. You see, we have delayed in setting up an IBC for more than 12 months. Why? Because of concerns of people from Azimio coalition. And from Wiper, they went to court challenging the person in the selection panel from political parties liaison committee, saying Wiper should have had somebody there. So this is not in the text of the law or the constitution. The process seemed to be going okay, but you can see it got stalled because of social or other political perspectives. So it's very important that even the appearance of integrity, of fairness and competence is there. And that is something that the new commissioners will have to engage in, and even the selection panel during the current process.
How will they be able to do that? We spoke about this a few minutes, just earlier on.
Yes.
How will they be able to do that? Because in as much as we talk about the law and constitutionalism, perception and optics play a huge role in this whole process.
Yes.
So if folks going in already have the perception that things were done in a partisan way, or that there is unfairness in terms of selection, your guess is as good as mine in terms of what will happen later on down the road when an election actually happens. And somebody will say, well, we told you in 2025 that things already were not fair. And here we are with a result where you had already injected unfairness. Are we not hurtling towards that direction?
That danger is there. And I don't think you'll ever have an IBC that everyone is perfectly happy with. And the members of IBC always need to know that they start from a perspective of some confidence deficit in some of the political players, because each political player, their position changes based on whether they're in government or in the opposition. You saw what happened between the last amendment to the IBC first schedule before the 2022 election and after. The same players, the people of Azimio, were happy with the process before 2022, and they were not happy with it after. Because now the president who does the final nomination is somebody who they are not collaborating with. So those things are likely to be there. And you see now Wiper are very concerned because they feel that their partner in Azimio, ODM, is in a handshake with government. And that the true opposition is Wiper. And yet it seems that it is the ODM side that is participating in the selection panel. So there'll always be an element of confidence deficit. And unfortunately, it is the parliamentarians who keep amending the first schedule and coming up with what they consider as the fairest method of appointing commissioners. So when the commissioners come in, they have to do what Yashpal Gai did when he started the process of constitution review in the 90s. They have to reach out to the other side. They have to give them a hearing. They have to build confidence in all the players, and not just the major political parties, because you have the smaller political parties. They don't like being called smaller political parties, but let's just say the ones with fewer members of parliament or with none. Maybe some have MCAs. They also are important players. They also need to be listened to. And then the other stakeholders, including people in the parliament and in the county assemblies, the executive, they also need to engage the judiciary, because the outcome of the work of IBC, the product of IBC's work, is normally tested in the judiciary.
So
So you see, they have a lot of work to be done. And if they do it well, if they are men and women of integrity, they should manage to bridge a big part of the confidence deficit that may be there when they start their job.
Okay.
At least what we can say is that there has been a fair attempt to have a process of getting panelists that is, you could say, not tilted too heavily to one political alignment or the other.
Yeah, we talk about an IEBC formation of IEBC process as you speak right now, but now there is the absence of IEBC and what that does to the officers that be. Let's talk about Parliament. Now, we have a Parliament that is not fully constituted as by the law because of those who left the office to get into cabinet secretary positions, by elections that need to happen. What does this mean with regard to the formation of the National Assembly as per the law and the Parliament itself being constitutionally in place?
Okay, so the Constitution says that when a vacancy occurs in a parliamentary seat, it should be filled within 90 days. But it doesn't say that if the seat is not filled, then Parliament ceases to be constitutional. So the vacancies have lasted, some for as long as a year because of either death or retirement or resignation. It doesn't make Parliament unconstitutional. What happens is that the Constitution provides certain minimum thresholds for Parliament to function. So, for example, the quorum for most matters in the National Assembly is, say, 50 members of Parliament. And for amendment of the Constitution is 2/3 of all members. So if the National Assembly has 349 members and maybe you have 5, 6 or 7 vacancies, it doesn't affect the ability of Parliament to still reach the thresholds it requires to reach, but to undertake its job. So the only issue that is there is that the members or the constituents of those areas where you don't have a representative are denied representation in the course of ordinary parliamentary business.
So that is that not then in and of itself unconstitutional? And then how do those members then seek reprieve? Because then the IEBC, because we've said that the IEBC still exists, because there are no commissioners or a chairperson doesn't mean that the functions don't continue. So is that not unconstitutional?
Yes.
I wouldn't say it's unconstitutional because parliaments all over the world, including our parliament, do face moments of vacancies. And it is so important for parliament to be able to keep operating even while you have temporary vacancies, that the importance of the public interest, the national interest, the importance of the whole country, we can't pause the work of such an important institution because there are some constituencies where the constituents are not represented. So those constituents are asked to bear with the processes and with time for the good of the whole country. Yeah, that's the idea.
But there's a small little matter here. When a constituency doesn't have an elected leader,
yes,
is it not the citizens' right to be represented?
It is their right, indeed.
So if that process is not carried out and they have no representation, could you then not say that a fundamental constitutional right is actually being abrogated?
Yes, there is a loss of a constitutional right. And the moment your member of parliament resigns or dies, you suffer that loss of representation. And I think the question of balancing between the rights of the people in that constituency and the rights of the people in all the other 300 plus constituencies, or 290 constituencies, because there are 290 elective constituencies, leads to that balance where you say you should be able to tolerate for a period of time non-representation, while the entire country at least continues to have a legislative arm to deal with important business. So the problem is when it stretches, when that period of non-representation stretches. And I think when the Constitution was designed, it was anticipated that within 90 days, you should be able to fill the vacancy. Although we also know that there are times when you may not have an outcome from an electoral process and have to repeat an electoral process. So it was tolerated to have some vacancy. I think a vacancy of 3 to 6 months is tolerable, but one of 12 to 18 months is not tolerable. And that is why it is honestly a failure of our constitutional processes that we've not had an IBC for 12 months. But the Supreme Court was very firm. It said the reason why in the Constitution we have these constitutional commissions, which are have the joint role, they call the Chapter 15 commissions of safeguarding constitutionalism, is to avoid either the executive or the legislature, and I guess even the judiciary, from overwhelming and dominating the constitutional space. And the reason why the constitutional commissions were made independent is so that they can act even when their action is contrary to the short-term interest of some members of the executive or the legislature. So the only way IBC can act and get that confidence from Kenyans is when there are commissioners who have been appointed, they're independent, they are balanced, there is a regional balance, gender balance, all kinds of diversity, and they are the ones overseeing the work of the commission. Insisted that it's so important that the commissioners are in office for this kind of activities, because this is what Kenyans wanted. They didn't want a commission that becomes a part of the civil service under the control of those who control the civil service.
Okay,
yes.
We're going to take a break, but we want to come back and really look at this issue. Of course, we've seen in the last 24 hours the opposition, as it were, crying foul in terms of the selection of the IEBC commissioners, and even the leader of the minority is saying that, you know what, we need an extension of this thing to be sure that there really is, for lack of a better word, no hanky-panky involved in all of this. So let's come back and look then at constitutionality when it then does hinge on selection. And that, can you really run away from any kind of, partisan selection? Charles Kanjama is our guest in the studio this morning, and we're looking at IEBC, we're looking at constitutionality, we're looking at timelines and thresholds, and essentially what it will portend going into the next period of civic education, of electioneering, etc., etc. 26 minutes to 9 o'clock. The Kenya's biggest conversation continues after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi at 17, and it's 17 and sunny into Nakuru with sunny conditions at 17 in Nyeri. At 16, Eldoret is sunny and the sun is up at 29 in Mombasa with sunny conditions at 29 into Malindi. It's sunny at 22 into Kisumu, while at 21, Kakamega will be sunny through Wednesday. Cloudy conditions at 20 in Kampala, while cloudy conditions rule in Dar es Salaam, currently at 25. We're looking to a sunny Mogadishu at 30 and a sunny Johannesburg at 15, while it's warming up to 15 in Addis Ababa, and sunny Lagos is cloudy at 28 with partly sunny conditions at 21 in Kinshasa.
Spice up your life.
All right, some traffic, and it's quite heavy on Mombasa Road today as you're getting out just past the next gen area going towards Bellevue. And so that is going to inch its way slowly through towards the Nyaya Stadium roundabout. So that's busy. Into the CBD, a lot of busyness happening here. Wayaki Way is busy. Lower Kabete going towards Spring Valley, it's starting to crunch up. And Ngong Road is also busy, coming in from Ngong and also from Karen, and then some traffic that comes in from Naivasha Road. That absolutely busy. Let's take a quick look at the Thika Superhighway, where traffic is still heavy coming through from Garden City. The Northern Bypass has a smidgen of traffic at that intersection as you come out then towards Kiambu Road. So we are still in traffic hour, pretty active, and so let's keep an eye on all of this and keep things moving as best we can. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Advocate Charles Kanjama is our guest this hour, and we're looking at this whole, business of the selections that are going on for the commissioners and the chair of the IBC. We're understanding the process is a little bit better. But then we have seen that yesterday, members of the opposition come out to say, no, we are not comfortable with this thing. And we see a position whereby fairness will not be maintained when it comes to the selection of the IEBC commissioners. Do they have a position here to hold with that statement?
For me, since I'm a lawyer, I think I will begin by recourse to the law. I think there has been a strict compliance with the law, including the amendments that were passed last year by Parliament in the process of composing the members of the selection panel. Second, when there is a dispute as to the interpretation of the law, we are meant to have recourse to the courts. And there have been court processes that have continued for the last 12 months, and they have concluded by giving some form of green light to the current process to continue. So when the law has been followed, when the courts have allowed the process to continue, I think members of the public and politicians are entitled to raise their concerns. But now they are not standing on a legal basis. They are standing on a socio-political basis. And so I think they can continue doing that because it is part of our fundamental rights and freedoms, assembly, protest, political rights, and Article 38. But the process needs to continue. Because now, as we were discussing before, the interests of more than 50 million Kenyans that require an IBC to be in office have to be weighed against also the concerns of these politicians. So unless they're able to get a court order, and right now I don't know whether a court would want to give a court order unless there's very clear and striking a violation of the law, then the process needs to continue. And we need to get the names. They need to be forwarded to the president. He needs to nominate some, take them to parliament. Parliament is mixed. In fact, we saw the other day that the court even declared that the majority party was not the party that of the president.
Yes.
So it means even in parliament, the people in opposition have a chance to influence the names that are presented there. They don't have to accept all the names. They could reject one or two if they think there are people who are not qualified or there is no effective balance. They are entitled to do that. But the constitutional and legal processes need to continue.
Now, Wakili, as this entire process continues now, we have the opposition who are at the moment raising their concerns with that, which brings the entire conversation on matters to do with an IEBC that would be formed and the need for the Republic, 55 million Kenyans, to trust that the commission that will be put in place will serve according to the constitution and aspirations of the office that they hold. Also, the fact to do with when they're getting in, there is the aspect of procurement process that need to take into place. So in terms of the commission that will be in place, to follow the law and to regain trust, just how much work do they have to ensure that any Kenyan will look at IEBC and say, they are working and we trust them?
I think the first breakdown of trust of IBC after the last election was when there was this very public breakdown of unity between the commissioners. You remember the Cherera Four on one side holding a press conference at Serena Hotel, and then you had the other three led by the chair, Chebukati. And this issue actually was one of the matters for determination by the Supreme Court in the presidential election petition. And the Supreme Court gave some directive. It said, yes, it's the chairman who is the returning officer, but he has to work with his commissioners. So the issue of unity, I think, is the first and most fundamental thing that the incoming commission has to promote amongst themselves. And this is part of corporate governance. Unity doesn't mean uniformity. It doesn't mean you agree on everything, but it means you use your governance processes to air out your different views and eventually arrive at a harmonized, unified position. And if you find yourself in a minority, you accept the view of the majority. So that is clearly one issue regaining trust. We need to see the commissioners coming from diverse backgrounds but speaking with one voice and under the stewardship of their chair. Number two, we saw how in the process for removal of the Cherera 4, when the tribunal was appointed, there was a lot of information coming out about attempts by people in the executive, including someone from military and elsewhere, to interfere. These were the allegations with the work of IBC. Phone calls, visits, even at the 11th hour, while they were in the midst of their most important task. And so we want to see that whichever commission comes in is able to affirm and assert its independence from both the government of the day, the leadership of the day, led by President William Ruto, from the people in the opposition, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka. They need to show independence, and we know that they are not going to come from a strange island. They are Kenyans. They already have existing connections with these parties and these people. But we'll need to see that when they are appointed as commissioners, they are able to develop a way of working and show it in public steps, whereby they affirm their independence from the various political players. And I think they'll even need to come up with some protocols. When do you receive calls from these players? When do you visit them in their homes or in clubs?
Should you?
Yes, or should you even? Yes. The first case scenario. This issue of coordinating between the Cherera 4 and the other, so that both of them are addressing the media at the same time. There's a lot of external interference. We don't want to see that anymore. But let me also say that IBC cannot work on their own. They need support from Parliament. They need the budget that is appropriate for them to get the tools and the equipment and the resources they need to procure them for an effective election. And then the judiciary also needs to support them. One of the challenges in the last election was the volume of pre-electoral litigation, with decisions being made even in the last week before the elections. And of course, how do you prepare effectively for elections if you are determining, cases are being determined that have an impact on how you'll carry out the election, even on the last week, because this is what happened last time. So the IBC need also to work with the judiciary and agree on when will these decisions come, because you can't stop Kenyans from filing cases in the courts.
Sure, but you can actually have a judiciary who says, actually, you know what, because we understand.
Yes.
And sometimes it does appear in some cases as though the judiciary behaves like the abandoned stepchild in this corner of this marriage that is government, right?
Yes.
Not without realizing, sometimes almost appears as though it forgets the pivotal role that it plays in some of these things. So when you talk about agreeing and saying that, how about we say we will allow this process to be carried out in the manner in which it ought to, because then it looks as though if you agree to sit and hear these cases before, and people are supposed to be going towards an election, what role does the judiciary have in this process that we talk about to allow it flow seamlessly?
So of course the judiciary have a right to intervene when they see there's a violation of the Constitution. And if there's a major violation of the Constitution 2 days before the election, the judiciary will have to intervene. If IBC make a decision that is clearly violating the Constitution and of major implications, they have to intervene. But I think there'll need to be some kind of protocol or guidance, so that you avoid any single judge sitting high court in this particular part of the country or this other part of the country, just intervening in a very uncoordinated manner and causing a lot of pressure and chaos to IBC in their organizational role. So I think there'll also need to be that discussion with the judiciary and maybe even some kind of rules, so that only the very urgent and high impact cases are handled, say, in the last week. So you say all these other matters, please deal with them, at least finish them 1 or 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks before the election. And after that one, if you want to file the case, maybe it should go to a certain division of the court, and a bench should be appointed very quickly that understands the need to resolve the matter. So there may be some very significant issues. For example, a presidential candidate might die. a week and a half before the elections, and the constitution says something, IBC gives a decision, say no, we'll ignore, we'll continue. So somebody goes to court, and you can't stop them from going to court in this kind of situations. But we are saying, can those other players support the work of IBC? Parliament is meant to pass any amendments to electoral laws more than 12 months before the elections. So if they are passing the amendments in the last 6 months, how does IBC plan? The Treasury is meant to avail funds or financing well in advance. In fact, there is a fund for IBC. But the Treasury always says, no, we are struggling to get money. We can't give you all the money you need. It's like they are doling it out. So sometimes it appears as if it's doled out based on good behavior of IBC.
If you behave in the way in which you should, then we'll give you the money.
So there are all these challenges. And even for us as the ordinary Kenyans, when we are asked to go and register to vote, can we go early? And not expect extension of the deadlines of registration.
No, it makes it so much more fun. Come on, Wakili, if you say the deadline is tomorrow at 12, it's necessary that we go tomorrow at 2.
Tomorrow there are long queues because we are always last minute Kenyans. So it's very difficult whereby we expect those we appoint into positions will not be last minute Kenyans while the rest of us are last minute citizens.
Is it possible to have this process kick-started, formulated and kick-started without political participation?
Very difficult.
Not impossible.
I don't think it would be appropriate because to start such a process which involves political players, and yet Article 10 of our Constitution talks about participation of the people. So who are the people that are meant to participate in all these governance processes? First is the political players, because they are the people who are involved and affected by those decisions. So they have to be given an opportunity at every stage to participate. But where I agree with you, City, is that you can have a timeline or a calendar and you go ahead with it. Those who want to jump onto the bus, they jump. Those who don't want to jump, the bus starts moving and they'll get in when they want to. But you have to always find a way of getting them to have an opportunity to engage. It's part of confidence building.
Okay.
What protection do IBC commissioners have? Many of these constitutional offices have tenure.
Yes.
So you can't wake up in the morning and tell somebody go home.
Yes.
Do IBC commissioners have the same tenure?
Yeah, they have a 6-year term. It's a one term, not renewable. And they can only be removed by the formation of a tribunal, like the one that was formed to remove the Cherera 4. And it can only be for serious constitutional grounds like breach of the constitution, gross misconduct, inability to perform their job. So they have the same protection that other state officers who have been given security of tenure have. So they can do their job in confidence that they have security of tenure, and it's only a serious misconduct that will trigger the process of removal.
There's a little detail of political, not interference, but participation.
Yes.
Because it is strong to the point where even appointments are influenced.
Yes.
It is strong to the point where they are appointed with sometimes allegedly specific instructions.
Yes.
So the independence, even at that point, one has to question whether it actually exists or not. So we then have a situation which, even before it starts, is fraught with problems, because there will be differences. Because if the electoral process is very directly infused with political intent, then it stands to reason that you can't really be independent, can you?
You're actually right. One of the challenges of IBC is to affirm and manifest their independence. You know, there are many constitutional commissions in Chapter 15, but none of the others is called independent.
Yes.
The others are given other names, but the word independent does not appear. And there's a very good reason why the word independent is the first word in the name of IBC. Because the framers of the Constitution and Kenyans were saying that the most important quality of IBC be independent of all these politicians who are competing for power, so that you can be a neutral and objective arbiter or referee between them. And you are right that because the people who are involved in the process of appointment, the president, after the selection panel, the president selects from these 2 who will become the chair. From the 9 who are the 6, parliament comes in, it asks them various questions. There is a risk. Unfortunately, we've not found a better way of setting up the IBC, because all the other ways we had before were worse. So this is like our best compromise of a system that involves the executive, the legislature, and where the judiciary can intervene if there is a challenge. So it's like the 3 arms of government are given a bit of a say. And hopefully once the people come in, because they are now given that independence and security of tenure, even if the person was 7 years ago a member of this political party or the other, once they now get that independence, they're expected to rise up to the occasion and act in accordance with the constitutional and statutory requirements.
Commissioners, very clearly, what is their role in the commission? And I'm going to ask the second question, because then I guess your answer to the first one would then bleed into that. And based on that, should commissioners be at any time or in any position, sitting down to whatever it may be, a coffee, a meeting with anybody in political spheres, for example, members, chairpersons of a political party, secretary generals? Remember what we talked about? Perception and optics.
Yes.
Very important in this whole process.
Yes.
What's the role of a commission, and why, in any reason, would they be seen frolicking with such?
Okay, I'll try to answer the 2 questions. First, the commissioners are full-time under the IBC Act. There are some constitutional commissions like Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission where commissioners are part-time. And when you are part-time, your role is mainly like a board of a company or an organization. You just sit in meetings, you make decisions, and the implementation of the policy is by the secretariat. When you're full-time, the expectation of the law and the constitution is that you have a governance role, but you also play a closer oversight role over the work of the commission. So the IBC commissioners, they meet. Sometimes they'll meet once, maybe a fortnight. As they are doing important assignments, they will meet even weekly. In the run-up to the general election or boundary delimitation, they will meet even more than once a week. They sit in committees also. They are assigned certain responsibilities. For example, the responsibilities may be to oversight the electoral or boundary process based on regions, or it may be functional oversight. So there is a secretariat member maybe who is in charge of voter registration.
Okay.
And there is a commissioner who's meant to oversight that voter registration.
Okay.
So they are not like managers of the organization. It's a mix between the traditional governance role, but also with some measure of oversight, so that they are ensured, or they are assured, that the work of the commission is going on as it should. In terms of whether they should be interacting with stakeholders, they have to get a balance. When you are too aloof from the people that you serve,
yes,
you get into an ivory tower. You don't even know the problems and the challenges they're having. You make decisions that have not listened to the people on the ground. So there is a danger of being too aloof, know it all. They want to come up with all the solutions instead of allowing people to organically propose solutions. On the other hand, you could end up being a wheeler dealer, because in the process of listening to the people on the ground, they are calling you, they are making all kinds of improper offers and recommendations, and this is the way our country is. So of course they'll need to have a statement of independence, and even maybe come up with a code of conduct as the commissioners on the do's and don'ts. I am a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, and I would say arbitration is one field where they have thought very closely on the question of independence. And they have certain principles of independence. You have to disclose. That's one of the ways of dealing with threats to independence. There has to be a measure of disclosure. You have to avoid engaging one party on the side in the absence of the other party. Normally in the first meeting, we tell the two parties, anytime you want to talk to me, please copy the other party. If it is a meeting, come in, both of you. So you try and avoid some of the very unstructured situations where people start talking to you personally, and then there's a perception of influence. And probably the IBC commissioners will have to borrow from this approach to independence that say arbitrators take when they are resolving disputes.
Okello, do we have Kenyans who are actually able to perform independently outside the judiciary? One sees in the judiciary individuals coming out and actually clearly demonstrating independence, but aside from the judiciary,
the truth, City, is that even in the judiciary, as lawyers, we sometimes get concerned because even the independence in the judiciary sometimes breaks down, and there's no sector where you have Kenyans where sometimes phone calls might not be made to someone. Of course, the judiciary, they are trained and they have an infrastructure that can encourage them to be independent.
Right.
And so you are right that IBC can also learn from the judiciary in terms of how does the judiciary maintain its independence. Can we adopt similar kind of approaches? But I remember one thing that I really liked about former Chief Justice Willie Mutunga, because before Chief Justice Willie Mutunga, the judiciary's desire for independence had reached a point where they were completely separate from the bar. They're almost like on an ivory tower. And Willie Mutunga even said, even the architecture of the courtroom, where the judge is seated on a high pedestal with a bar and the people are down there. Let's change it. He said, let's have court users committees. The judiciary needs to listen to court users and bar bench committees. We set them up. At that time, I was the chair of the Nairobi branch of the Law Society. We set up bar bench committees. So they are structured, but there's a method of engaging between the judiciary and the court users. Because you need this. There are certain issues that don't have to escalate to Judicial Service Commission if you resolve them at a certain level. So IBC would need to use a similar approach whereby they don't become like an ivory tower. They're just there aloof. No, you can't call me, you can't talk to me. But they can come up with rules structured. For example, the Political Parties Liaison Committee is a fantastic organ for engaging with IBC. They could find other structured ways of engaging with including even with the leaders of political parties.
Indeed.
But do it in a way that cultivates that sense of objectivity and impartiality
amongst the people. Charles Kanjama, I must say that I hate to let you go, but you know we have to. Time doesn't always allow, but this has been great to then be able to have a further understanding, and it is our hope that, you know, along the tenets of which you have spoken today, that things will actually be followed. But it's good to get insights, and thank you for joining in on this conversation.
My pleasure.
Asante Sana. Good morning. 9 a.m.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, this is the news wire. I'm Lau Ubaga. 4 people have died in a road accident at Kibowon area, Kisumu County. Traffic Enforcement Officer Peter Maina says the deceased were 3 students and a PSV conductor. Maina adds that the accident involved a PSV and a sugarcane truck. He has called on motorists to observe traffic laws, especially now that students have closed school and are travelling back home for the holiday break. At least 13 families spent Tuesday night in the cold after a fire incident in Molo, Nakuru County. Police reported that the fire occurred in Mutirithia village within the Molo constituency. According to local residents, the blaze began around 11:30 p.m. and spread rapidly, destroying their homes. Some survivors indicated that their doors had been locked from the outside by unknown individuals, forcing them to escape through windows. The cause of the fire remains undetermined and investigations are ongoing. ongoing, even as the affected residents are appealing to the government for temporary shelter and essential supplies. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday attended a meeting chaired by President William Ruto. Other facilitators also attended the virtual meeting held late last night, tasked to lead the peace process in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Apart from Uhuru, former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo joined the meeting virtually. Saleh Wak Zende of Ethiopia, Catherine Samba Panza of Central African Republic. The meeting was convened following a directive from the Joint East Africa Community and Southern Africa Development Community. From the joint summit resolutions, the co-chairs were asked to call a briefing session with the facilitators within 7 days to establish a roadmap for the de-escalation of the DRC conflict. Kapseret constituency member of parliament Oscar Sudi has lauded the people of Nyeri for turning out in large numbers for President William Ruto's development tour of the Mount Kenya region. Taking to his official X account, Sudi said that the Nyeri people had risen above narrow divisions and focused on hard work and progress. Sudi said those who came out to witness the projects that were commissioned by the head of state on his first day of his week-long tour have chosen unity, coming together to move forward over chaos and tribal talk. President William Ruto will today visit Meru County, where he'll commission the Nkwene substation in Imenti South this morning. Later in the evening, he'll head to Kirinyaga County to commission projects at the Kagio market, including power infrastructure improvements. Yesterday, the president was in Nyeri, where he defended himself against the notion that he has marginalized Mount Kenya for development and that his popularity was affected after his former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was impeached. Former Kiambu County Governor Ferdinand Waititu is expected in court for the hearing of a graft case involving him, Testimony Enterprises, and 6 others. According to EACC, Waititu, who is currently at Committee Maximum Prison, is embroiled in a suit for recovery of 147 million shillings, being proceeds of corruption arising from a road construction contract irregularly awarded to a contractor during his time as a governor. The matter is coming up for hearing at the Milimani Anti-Corruption Court. Another high-profile graft case to look out for involves Embakasi North Member of Parliament James Mwangi Gakuya and 10 others. EAC says the accused persons have been charged with conflict of interest and fraudulent misappropriation of public funds. The allegations stem from the allocation of 40 million shillings by the Embakasi North NGCDF for the construction of roads that were already built by the carer. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, taking a look at what's happening with traffic right about now on the roads. Let's see. The Thika Superhighway was already crazy, but that seems to have reduced significantly as you then approach the city. A little bit of that traffic left. The Eastern Bypass now looks pretty good, and some traffic still left on Kangunda Road today. Jogga Road has quite some traffic as you're trying to make your way towards Landlease, which, by the way, is then jam-packed as you're going towards Kamkunji. There is some traffic on Raila Odinga Way that's finding some of that going towards Valley Road, and the rest of it is joining with what's coming off from Gong Road towards Community, so that is busy. We'll be out of traffic hour soon. For now, it looks like we can all manage this Wednesday. Let's talk in the meantime. Should we need to? SpiceFM KE on X. Hashtag the Situation Room.
Traffic updates brought to you by I&M Bank. Whether it's groceries, fuel or luxury shopping, make every swipe count. The I&M Bank Milele Points gives you real rewards for your spending. What's even better, every 20th customer to get the card gets 50,000 Milele reward points worth 50,000 shillings.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, at 6 minutes after 9 o'clock, into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Wednesday, the 2nd of April. And our audiences are on clicking in on our live streams and on radio in Kenya and around the region, and indeed around the world. And our audiences broadcasting on KTN. Good to have you in this hour, and as we do, we're going to be looking at budgeting, saving and investing. A good friend of ours, Robert Ochieng, is here with us, and before we get into that, because it's going to be an interesting ride, ALX, where we can get a pathway towards global university education. How?
Yeah, so you go to bit.ly/ALX pathways. FM is where you get that information. But before that, let's just remind you that the deadline is the 21st of April. So get clicking, get applying. And even while at that, remember that through LX Pathway, you will have an opportunity to study at global universities with options for in-person, hybrid and online. So you decide whichever it is meets your day-to-day activities is that which you go for. And to gain access, you'll complete the comprehensive 8-month LX Pathway Foundations, which will give you skills such as leadership, entrepreneurship, and communication, designed to prepare you for successful university application. So it is not just about applying, it is not about getting these scholarships and paid partnerships, but it's all about preparing you so that by the time you're getting there, you're ready to get into class and win. All this information, bit.ly/LX Pathway SFM.
That's the way to go. And another way to go is that when you're walking along doing your shopping or doing your traveling, there's a companion in a card. CT?
There is actually. And it's simple to understand and even simpler to use. Why is it simpler to use? Well, because there's an incentive. As you use the card, you actually accumulate something that is very profitable to you. Mm-hmm. They are called Milele points. Milele points are points that you accrue by using the World Credit MasterCard by I&M Bank. Now, when you register to get this particular card, and what then happens is that you use the card as you would any other, but you keep getting redeemable points as you use the card. These redeemable points can be used for just every ordinary shopping that you normally engage in. Whether you want to buy a ticket to fly, whether you want to fuel, whether you want to shop, you can do so. Now, in registering, if you happen to be the 20th customer, what that means is you will be eligible for a 50,000 Milele points reward.
Fantastic.
Now, the 50,000 Milele points rewards translates to 50,000 Kenya shillings.
Same.
And you can do with it what I said earlier on.
That thing that you said we can do with it now.
That
later
thing which I said, you can do the same thing with it.
Good stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so the more you use it, the more you earn, the more you spend, the more you earn. Great stuff.
And so forth and so forth.
Okay.
And it's continuous.
It is.
Yes.
All right. Robert Ochieng is the CEO and co-founder of Abojani Investment, and he's here in the hot seat again with us this morning. We're looking at budget saving and investing and looking at ways in which you can actually make this. It is an issue, and as we get into it this morning, we want to say welcome to you, Robert, once again, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. Glad to be back.
Great to have you here. And, as you did before, let us welcome you to the room with today's proverb, and then you can do an interpretation of that for us. Okay?
Yes, we are in the Comoros, okay? An archipelago in the Indian Ocean, similar to the one we have in one of our counties in Kenya called the Lamu County. Where there are riches, thieves abound. If the riches are large, the thieves are big.
That's a tough one, but I would say what it means is that you should take care of what you have and be very discerning and careful in regards to whom you share your riches with.
Good.
Fantastic.
It's a good interpretation. So you need to have riches, and when you have riches, other people will also want it. Yes, so
you should take care of them.
Yes, though it's yours, other people will want it.
Indeed.
Yes. And they may not necessarily ask you to share with them. Some may actually decide they want to take it.
Yeah, at times, especially after you've gone to be with the Father Lord up there.
Or you have decided that you have this need to represent the people.
You can decide.
It happens when it gets into people's heads. And I know many people have lost a lot of money trying to be MPs and MCAs. So probably you need to do a study of that. Yeah.
Indeed. Well, even as we do, and looking at budgets and looking at investment and looking at savings, these are conversations that find their way into, people's homes, the entire process of budgeting and its importance. Let's give an overview of that from your perspective.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I would first say that I'm glad to be here because April is Financial Literacy Month globally, where people are just supposed to be more connected with their personal finances in terms of organizing their money, budgeting, saving, investing, and stuff like that. And what is key when you look at personal finance, we say that it is very personal because it is about you, your goals, objectives, and what you want to achieve in life.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important to make that connection so that by the time you are going to budget, you are basically planning that these are the things that I have in terms of aspirations, where I want to get, and money is a tool to help me with that. So that personal connection is key. And one of the frameworks for budgeting is just to say, can you categorize your financial needs into financial spending into 3 items? So first of all, look at your needs. So needs are the bare minimum, whatever we are spending our money on at the peak of COVID. There are a few places to go, right? Then the next thing is living life, and finally saving and investing for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So once you have that, then you also need to look at your life in terms of your short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals. So you'll know that in 5 years' time, this is what I want to achieve, and this is where I'm saving and investing. So that connection is supposed to be very personal. And when you don't have the personal connection, is where we fall for what we call IOP, so impressing other people, So you start doing things to please other people, and you'll realize these other people, they never exist during your tough times. And that's when people start saying friends are a scam. So I usually say, if you have a connection with your money, you'll know that this is my situation. Probably have irregular income. So there your budget will be different because you should be aggressive on the expenses side. But there are people who have the comfort of receiving a salary every month. So their budgeting framework will be different. There are entrepreneurs who have decided that for the first 2 years, they're not paying themselves a salary. So you have to look at your own situation, then you plan based on that situation. And you need to look at money as a framework for living life. So you also look at your life and situation. So probably there's a gentleman with 2 wives, for example, or there's a firstborn with 6 dependents. So look at your situation so that when you are putting your money into plan, it reflects your aspirations and your real life, like what you want to achieve for yourself. Because without that, there's a famous saying that the man will grow legs. Yeah, and that's where now you start having the conflict. This is what I want to achieve, but I'm not achieving anything. And retirement is a big problem globally because people just find that the age has arrived,
Yeah.
So we were told by 65 we'll retire, but they didn't tell us that over 86% of people who have retired in Kenya, they don't have enough to live off. So it means that without financial planning, then you just count days. Today is Wednesday, next week, Monday, like that, then time is going. So it's very, very important to look at own objectives, then you start planning your money around that.
So how do you budget?
Yeah.
So there's a framework known as 50-30-20 rule. So that's just an example. So what it says that don't put more than 50% of your net income on needs. Then 30% is for living life. So I would define it as anything to do with body, mind, and soul, like keeping fit, if you're supporting your parents, leisure, entertainment, going back to school.
That should be how much? 30%?
30%, yes.
30% is body, mind, and soul.
Yeah, so that's self-development. It makes you a better person. So you need to keep fit, you need to eat healthy, you need to go out and relax. You can't be working 24 hours in a day. So because of that, you are feeding the life, but also taking care of your needs. But you also need to think about tomorrow. So money is about living today and thinking about tomorrow. So that's where saving and investments come in, and you need to look at 20% of your net income.
Saving 20% should be saving
and investing. And saving actually happens in your mind. You've decided to set aside money, but we need to move it to investing, whereby when I'm moving money from my salary account, it needs to go to a place where I'm getting returns above the inflation rate. Currently, the inflation rate is 3.6%. So if you can get returns of at least 8%, 11%, that would be good. So in the long term, it would work in your favor by growing your wealth over time.
But when you talk about saving, there is the important aspect of tracking your income and expenses. And even when you talk about the 50-30 rule, it is that aspect of knowing where to put these 20%, because someone will just say, see, I'm saving, I'm just putting it in a certain savings account and that's it, I will get it after X number of years. So there is that lack of information on where someone should invest in to get the returns of 8% above the inflation rate.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So when you talk about money, you need to look at 3 pillars. So you start with the mindset, which is what we've been talking about. So mindset is basically who you are and what you want to achieve with your money, and making that connection. You start by answering the question, what can money do for me? So what does it mean to me? So it means different things to different people. For some people, it is status. So if they're around and you don't feel like they're around, then stop working. So you need to feel like City Muga is here. If it means status for them, they'll tell you, I have a home in Kajiado, and my kids are in the UK. So if that is why they wake up to work in the morning, let them be, because that's how they connect with money. For some people, again, it is security, it is freedom. So that's very important. Then you go to skill set. So skill set is to understand that this is where I am, and these are the tools that can help me to achieve my obligations. So go to financial markets, look at the regulators, look at the risk, look at the safety, and how the various investment options have been working over time. So you might go to a bar somewhere and we hear that this is the hottest investing. So if you don't have a history, it's very difficult to judge that kind of investing. So it's always important to start with the defensive options that will teach you the habit of saving and investing consistently. So look at things like money market funds by asset managers or circles. So they've been proven. If you select some of the best, so the details are available on the regulators' websites. So if you select some of the best and you're just consistent by putting even 5,000, 10,000, it will teach you, because doing it is actually like being in the University of Personal Finance. There's no other option. It doesn't matter how much you know, you need to start doing. So that doing will tell you that whenever you get money, you need to set it aside so it becomes part of you. Then the other thing about money is the tool set. So after you've understood how the instruments work, you need to have the courage to take action. So go and open that circle account or money market, and then you get started. And that's why they say money is silent, because once you get it, it's so natural, and you're just in momentum, you're just in the flow of doing it consistently. So it's very, very important to look at the mindset where you connect with your money. Skill set, you understand how money works. For example, there's something known as 72 rule. So what it says is that if you take 72 over the rate of return, that's the number of years it will take for your money to double. So 72 rule says, for example, if your investment is giving you 12% per annum, so it takes 72 over 12, that's 6, right?
Yes.
So it means that if you put 100,000 somewhere, it will take 6 years for it to double. So it's very, very important to understand such rules, because that's what will enable you to work with money in the long term. Because the advice is that you need to give your money space to breathe. So if you don't understand such rules, such as compounding, it means that you will not take advantage of time.
So in this example that you've given now, it'll actually take you 6 years to realize a return on what you have put in.
100%. It will double, double in 6 years. So it means in 12 years it will have grown 4 times. And that's why they always say start early. And still, if you are 40 and you have 12 years ahead and you are earning good money, it still means that you can do very well. So it is about time. So money works with time.
There is the aspect of sticking to the budget. That is the most difficult thing for many, because here is a question where with every day things change. Inflation goes up, yet I'm supposed to stick to these 50-30-20 rule, despite the fact that I'm spending more on the other needs. So how does that come to affect the overall money that I'm getting at the end of the day? And what should I do? Because it is just the normal way of things changing here and there.
So I would say, in terms of sticking to the budget, what I would say, it is planning. And planning is not about perfection. It's just to have a framework. And you should know that personal finance is a self-mastery and self-awareness journey. So you need to be aware that there needs to be flexibility and improvement over time. So once you have that in mind, it will mean that if you've not done well in this month, you look at where you went wrong and you keep improving. But in the needs budget, I always advise people to have a line known as things that I forget to budget for. Because there are things that can come up within the month. Maybe there's some subscriptions, some bills on 25th that forgot to incorporate into your budget. Then you keep writing them and you'll get better over time. So ensure the budget is not too squeezed. But the thing is, if you have that connection with where you are saving and investing and you write it down, you are likely to be more disciplined in money matters. So if money means security for you, you won't struggle when you are saving and investing for security. Because again, we know that lack of money can bring a lot of problems. Some people say money means happiness to them. So it means that there are those friends that if they're broke, they'll be grumpy. If you call
they'll
them...
be sick, not grumpy. Sick.
Yeah, literally. So if you know you're that person, just save and invest, because when we call you as our good friends, you just want to say hi. You know, sometimes they're just checking on you. So it's very, very important to have that connection, because like we say, the mindset is the driver. It will push you because you know why I'm doing it. Without it, you'll have a struggle. You'll feel like saving and investing is a punishment. But look at waking up today and you find you said the jobs are gone. What will you do? You see, that's a very dangerous place to be in. So it's very important to have the connection, because already you have 30% for living life. The sherehes and everything, supporting other people, you know, going to the gym, keeping fit and stuff like that. The needs, you have a whole 50%. So it's important to have that. So in the worst case scenario, you should have something to save. Even if it is 5%, then improve it over time. If you're young and you can save more, the better.
Yeah. You know, Robert, this discussion presupposes a certain income. If I live in Nairobi and I'm earning 7,000 shillings, how will this discussion work for me?
Yeah, very good question. And I'll take you back to my personal history. So from campus, I used to live in a place known as Kimbo.
You went to campus?
Yes.
Let's say you didn't go to campus. Because when you go to campus, you start with an advantage.
Yeah.
You actually have an education. So even when you begin working, you will begin at a certain level.
Yeah.
The vast majority of the citizens of this country have not gone to university. The majority have not gone to university. The majority of people who make a living in business are small, what do you call juakali, small scale businesses. All right. What they earn, let's be fair. Let's give it 20,000, just for purpose of being fair.
Great, yeah. So the beauty, City Muga, about Nairobi is that there's a house for every level of income. So you need to look at your situation and where you are and season. And before you even look at informal and formal, what you need to know is that money is a byproduct of value creation. So that's something that I've seen, like there's an entrepreneur who did for us the interior design for office. They did it so well that in the last 6 months, they've done for other companies in the same place. So the same would go to a plumber. If you are invited to fix some tap or something, do a good job so that next time I have friends, I can speak about you. So it's always important to have that relationship, because people keep saying that they're earning little. But the thing is, ask yourself, what more value can you create? How can you make yourself to be in people's mind when they are looking for people who can fix things? So that's very important. Then when you go to earning now, it is a journey. Like the first time I was ever paid, it was 20,000, you know, and I was living... I was living in a bed sitter. So you move with that.
Bed sitter.
So anyway, so you move with that. So over time, as you prove that you can work, because these days there are a lot of opinions about work. You know, there are people who actually say, you know, for me, I want to work like this, like that. That really doesn't matter. What matters is the results and outcomes. And people who go up the ladder, they're able to achieve more, because you'll have even Juakali people who can work.
Robert, when I started to work, my salary was 2,000. Okay.
When was that?
1981.
That was a lot of.
That was a lot of. You must have been a cool kid.
Precisely. That 2,000, God, man, there was hardly anything I could not do with it. I could do everything you mentioned, because the shilling was very strong then. Inflation was at a bare minimum. My reference point is somebody who is a laborer, who is not guaranteed of work on a daily basis, who is paid per day, because there are very many Kenyans in that position. There are some who are farm laborers who are paid even less than the worker who is engaged in a building site we call mjengo. Not everybody who is on a building site, has a qualification that is known, but they work and they are paid. These Kenyans, how does this message resonate with them, and what do they do with their circumstances?
Yes, I always said that what you need to prioritize is needs. So basic, the bare minimum in terms of survival. So you need to look for rent, a place, a roof over your head. So you prioritize the needs budget first. Then you'll see from the needs budget if there's something little that you can save, whether it is 100 Kenya shillings per week, but always prioritize that, and then look at ways if you can get more income, or just the little that you can save, even if it is 100. So that discipline, you learn it during your tough times and worst days. Because the good days, if you don't have the habits, it will even be worse for you. So it's always important to say that, for now, yes, I can't afford to save and invest. I might not even afford to go out. So I'm just looking for the needs budget first. And that's human nature. I remember even without all these financial markets and stuff like that, what did we used to do? We used to go and hunt, right? Yeah. Even the idea of eating breakfast, lunch, supper, these are very new idea. I don't know how people used to eat before, but they were surviving. So survival is the priority. Then you see how you can improve in terms of saving even the little that you have, and be creative as well in terms of networking, getting to see where the opportunities are. Because that's a weakness that we have in our ecosystem, that people don't talk a lot about networking. And you'll find that someone has gone even to some of the biggest schools, and they're still speaking like those who are not privileged, So we need to take advantage of networks, even where you work. The people can move to the next place. If you are working well, they'll give you those opportunities. But I would always say prioritize the needs for a start and live within your season.
The things you say, as I hear them, they make sense. But there are things that perhaps need to be instilled when one is very young. Young at the point where it becomes your habit. My case in point is a country like Japan. They have a saving culture. India, they have a saving culture. China. These Asian tiger countries, they have cultures, meaning actually saving is considered something that one aspires to do. We aspire to spend. So you see, there is a fundamental flaw there, and there's a fundamental difference, because if your urge is to spend and to splash and to splurge, then there'll be nothing to save. And part of it is because that is habitual. One didn't learn or acquire the discipline of thinking of money in the structured terms that you're referring to. This is an argument, we always put across whenever we're talking to guests here, that some of these things, wonderful as they are, if they're not part and parcel of the learning process of a child as they're growing up in this country, this problem will persist. Countries that are able to have surpluses and are able to have money, it's because people save.
Agreed, yeah.
They know and they understand and they save. So they have money. As we spend. And then when they're not spending and they want to find an excuse for not saving, they'll say black tax.
Or they'll say sherehe.
Or they'll say something.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the questions that comes up, because when we talk about budget, investing, saving, that the assumption is that there is a little bit extra, but the excuses we often give really doesn't matter at what earning level you are, is that there just really isn't enough to go around. So maybe we come back after this break and talk about then where do you find the little bit extra for it then to be enough for these things to happen. And we'll see. Right? Abujani CEO Robert Cheng is here with us this morning, and we're having these conversations in, interestingly, a month that is Financial Literacy Month around the world, and saying, okay, guys, let's have these conversations, as uncomfortable as they are. Let's talk about them and get to a place where we don't have to fly by the seat of the pants to make something happen, especially when there's an emergency or when you just want a little bit of pleasure and you don't have to think about where it should come from. So we'll talk about those when we come back from this break. It's 29 minutes to 10. Don't go away.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice. When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So we're coming around to about 27 minutes to 10 o'clock and having conversations this morning around financial literacy, budgeting, investing, saving. Robert Ocheng is the CEO and co-founder of Abojani Investments. And as we have that conversation, usually it's centered around, okay, so I don't have... And I know you've given a little bit of, in terms of insights into then where to find it, whereby the conversation is, I only have so much, and I know that I want to get from one place to another. Is it a thing of mind over matter? Because the matter is that in your account or in your hands, you can see the reality of what is there. So is it an issue of that you can train your mind to start to look for opportunities? How would you advise on that?
Yes, so to say money works with abundance, so it's to see that there's enough going out there. Like despite the hard times, you'll still find that people are spending. So you just look at the places where you spend your money in the last 1 month, and there's a way value is created, and customers will tell you so-and-so is doing a good job and stuff like that. So I think lack of connection with that can also bring a lot of problems. So it's very important to learn how value is being created. Then when it comes to saving and investing, to be honest, the older generations, they used to have granaries and they used to save and invest. They're able to take their kids to university. They're not struggling with school fees for kindergarten and stuff like that. So what we also need to know is that as we consume information, we really need to be discerning. Because there are extreme ideas and they border on spending, pleasing people, stuff like that. And then we forget about ourselves. So I always say that, in my opinion, we need to pick the good things from all these things that we are seeing and connect with the tradition. Because if you look at the unit trust space in Kenya, the 3 months between April and June 2020 is when people saved the highest amount ever in the history of Kenya. So it means people need to be scared to save. So we've always been told that people prefer painkillers to vitamins. So it's important to learn these habits. Because when they're tough, like someone told me that they're in a very tough situation, they're not okay mentally, and to go and see a therapist, they were paying 5K per hour. So you see, things are tough either way. So if you get sick, things are tough. So it's always important to look at life as a matter of things can go wrong, and you start with an emergency fund. But above all, learn value creation. So value creation is whereby what you are doing speaks for itself. And that is how it works. So if you are to take your car to a mechanic, you are likely to go to the best. And people know who is good and who is not good.
Right.
So those are the things that you need to learn. Then networking. So the other challenge that I'm seeing these days is that people spend a lot of time with people that are not going to add value in their lives in terms of opportunities, and they call them friends and they call them buddies. People you can have fun around and hang out with might not necessarily be the people who can give you opportunities. So smart people, you'll find the wealthy people, they have a very subtle way of mixing social with business. You might find they're meeting somewhere over a social drink, so they're doing social and business together. But the people spend 99% of their time with some people who they call social friends, like the whole weekend. And these people never share with them any job opportunity or business. So I think you need to know that money is a byproduct of who you know, how you interact with them, the skills that you have, and how people can speak on your behalf. Yeah, because you can only get so much opportunities by yourself. And even if you are doing a good job, you still need your customers to talk on your behalf
Right.
or your former employers. But this day we hear people actually brag that they resigned through a text and disappeared. The next time, the next employer will ask this previous employer about you. Then you'll start seeing that's where the rain starts beating you. So you have to understand these principles. They're old and they exist because people want reputation. Like everyone wants their company to succeed. So they'll try to look at your background.
Yes.
And it is even crazy in banking sector where we look at your credit reports and stuff like that and reputation because you're handling people's money. So knowing those elements is very, very important, and respecting the fact that when you create value is when you earn. And when now that earning comes, you can think about saving and investing. And if you want to grow your earning, grow your skills, grow your relationships and stuff like that. So that's a very subtle thing that maybe has not been explained. Then saving and investing, I think we can say we are where we are, but part of civilization is to get better. So like for us, we do a lot of initiatives for young people. Even our current masterclass, there's a big time Nairobi NSC investor who received the Safaricom dividends, and they're sponsoring 5 to come and learn from University of Nairobi. So let's do what we can. And even for the young people in our family, I want even the CS for Treasury, Honorable Mbadi, to create some tax exemption for women. So let's say formerly employed women, the month that they are having a baby, they should exempt that pay for that month and put for the child in a money market account. Because it is said that when you start when you are young, then you'll grow. And it will also save the government with the retirement issues that we have.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So practically, you want to go ahead, Dennis? Practically, if I have 1,000 shillings, okay, maybe what you're going to put in a money market, because these are things we talk about, where to put your money, what to do. Because truth is, somebody who says maybe they do earn, very little, or they're making very little from business. If I have 1,000 bob and I want to put it in a fund, for example, what is it giving back to me?
So if you look at it, it can give you 8 to 10%.
That's 8 shillings.
Yeah.
80,
so you look at it from a
80
percentage.
shillings. Yeah.
From a percentage point of view.
Yeah.
So as long as you are earning above the inflation rate, then you are doing well. Because in some countries, the savings accounts give even 3 or 4%.
And this is over what period of time?
Over 1 year.
So if I have 1,000 shillings, as the assumption is, if I have 1,000 shillings, in 12 months, you're giving me back 80 shillings on top of what I have.
Yeah.
Right? And so now when you look at it like that, as opposed to the percentage, people are like, well, why am I going to waste my time doing 1,000 shillings where I can, maybe open a business and I can see the 300 shillings that it's giving me every day?
Yeah, so for that one, you need to think of a portfolio. You get it? So a portfolio is to say that when I'm earning 1,000, I'm going to set 200 into that low risk account. So you call it a war chest or a buffer. Then 800 you can try out something with. And people exaggerate business. Like personally, I lost about 3.6 M in side hustles in a period of 3 years.
You are one of those quail eggs guys.
Yeah, no, just these typical ones that you think and you can calculate the amount of money you're getting per month in your head, but when you go to the ground, it doesn't work. And people have lost money, 50K, 100K. So it's good to know that we are working with a portfolio. Low risk is the foundation. Don't skip the foundational steps. Like emergency, like if you lose your phone and you are in business, you just need to have another phone. That's where the 5K that you set aside will help you, and probably the 30K that you had, you've blown it in a business that didn't work. So it's important to know that when you have that emergency fund or the war chest or the buffers, you're actually buying the peace of mind.
Yeah, so there is the aspect of saving, but knowing what to save towards or how to save is usually the issue. You've mentioned the emergency fund, but let's talk about saving for specific goals. So you'd find someone short term, I need to save because I want to go enjoy myself over December, so I'm saving towards a holiday. Then there is the medium term, house down payment and whatnot, and then there is the long term where I'm saving for my children's school fees, I'm saving towards a retirement and whatnot. So how important is it to understand what I'm saving towards so that I plan myself towards that? Because it's fine we're saving, but for what exactly am I saving for? How critical is that information?
Yeah, that's very critical. So I started by saying that you need to divide your goals into short term, medium term, and long term. So when you get your money, like let's say you are planning to go for holiday, then that one falls under self-development budget, body, mind, and soul. So you're just putting it aside every month, 5,000. Then at the end of the year, you have a cool 60,000. Then you can go and enjoy yourself in Diani, you know. Then there is saving towards home ownership. So home ownership, you'll say there are different ways of owning a home, and I want to buy a piece of land. So the piece of land could be 500K or 1 million, stuff like that. Then you'll know that I'll achieve it in 5 or 6 years. Then after that, probably start saving toward construction. So you need to look at short-term and long-term, and also look at the blind spots, because people are likely to forget budgeting for things like school fees. So that's very common, car insurance premiums, and even holiday. Yeah, so it's very, very important to look at that. So there are expenses that don't come on a monthly basis, but still need to save for them on a monthly basis. Then prioritization is important. So just know that your resources are not unlimited, and look at that. And if you have a connection, what we call goal-based saving, you are likely to be able to save more than when you don't know what you are saving for. Actually, when you just have money lying there, you'll become very clever in terms of how to spend it. Yeah.
Or you could forget.
Yeah, you could forget. Yeah. And you know the funds will come. So the other thing that I didn't talk about skill set is learning to say no, and no is a complete sentence. Yeah, and I think, not to be too harsh to people, but I think we need to learn that only young people are supposed to struggle with things like pleasing people. So these days you find people at 30, 40, they're still spending a lot of money pleasing people who don't even care about them. So that's a real crisis right there. Yeah, because people who love you and care about you, they really don't care about these funny things that people trying to spend money on, that people will be due during your worst days.
Robert, when did it become a crisis?
It has become too common.
People, or you're speaking of psychophancy? Okay, now that is the extremity of it.
So what I'd say, just spending money to look cool towards other people, but you know you are hurting yourself and your finances. Especially in the social media era, where people are trying to claim to be who they are not.
iPhone 16.
And they are setting standards for people. Setting standards for who? Why should anyone set standard for me? We didn't meet anyone and agree that you're going to set for me standards.
You do have a point. If someone is doing what their heart tells them to do, whatever it is tells them to do, and they're doing it, other people choose to copy what they do. I mean, the blame game, which is normally a way of dissecting and analyzing and concluding on an issue, if we make up our minds independently, it also means we make up our minds who we allow to influence us. It also, and often that tends to, should we say, align with the desires that we have. If I have an interest in being known or being famous or being seen to have money, then I will be in social media and I will be presenting that image, won't I? Yes. If, for instance, I like to be thought of as somebody who is important, when I go home and I'm among my relatives, I'll make sure I splash so that people know that I'm Mr. Moneybags.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, true.
Yes.
So, as well, in this room, I really like City's shoes and I want to get them. So,
yeah, so that's why I say, like, in my opinion, I would look at, do you know who your friends are, buddies, and people you need to be friendly with? Because when you look at personal finance, even in developed economies, retirement is a crisis because of lack of connection with your money. And unfortunately, City, what happens if I don't do anything for my retirement? It will become your problem as the taxpayer. That's the standard globally.
It is true. Yeah. It is very, very true. But you see, what you're talking about is an aspirational way in which one should go about business, and it also points to how the government should go about looking after its citizenry. One has heard comments, one has heard discussions, one has even heard pronouncements of something like the Retirement Benefit Authority and the things that it does, NSSF, increasing the contribution. These are things that are meant to inform the public that whatever it is that you are saving should be able to help you. For instance, the contribution that were made to NSSF, that thing cannot help you. At the end of the day, previously, you can work for 30 years, that money will not help you.
It will not take you anywhere.
No. It won't. Even if they pay it you monthly, it is peanuts. Now, the point is, how do we structure a system where, just like we are taxed based on what we earn, our saving is also based on what we earn, so that this kitty, you know that you work for the number of years you've worked, whether you're still in employment and whether you're not in employment as such, but you can still contribute this amount of money. Actuaries do a very good job. They'll tell you at the end of X number of years, you will be able to have this. Now, it's not that difficult to do. It's not, but it hasn't been done. Now, if we look at people, and this is your line of business, of people who actually understand savings and understand investment, what percentage of the population in this country would you say they form? Yes, roughly, anecdotally speaking.
There are very few. Yeah.
Yes.
They might not even be 1%.
Precisely. It may even be a fraction of but it is good. It means they exist. So how do you grow this?
Yes, I think first step the government has tried is the new NSSF structure, which is still work in progress. But it came because of the realization that the previous one was not capable of helping people. So I think that's one goal. And then what I've seen from retirement, I think if you look at history, what happened to people who used to work for Kenya Railways, Telecom, you remember, people have realized that that primary retirement basket is not enough these days. So you still have your primary deductions from your employer, or if your business, you set that aside, but create a portfolio of investments. So you talk about real estate, money market funds and stuff like that. Even if you have cattle. So that is what has been seen to work, because even currently retirees will tell you they're never too sure when the pension will check in. It can take 3 months, 6 months. So because of that realization, I feel people should take more charge of their retirement plans. So on top of the traditional pension plans, like individual pension plan and NSSF, have another option, like they're saving that 10K in money market, bonds, and grow towards a certain amount of money.
Right. So when CT mentioned that some cultures that we know that, they're saving cultures. That's just what they do. But I think about my grandmother, and, there was that little stone thing, where she kept, the woman was filthy rich because she would just keep and keep and keep and keep, and there would never be a time where there would have been an emergency of some sort, or one of her children was getting married and she wouldn't have extra money to buy wrapper for to buy like the cloth for the ceremony,
what
or
is it called again?
Wrapper for the ceremony. So my point is that they always had something, and that's where these groups that we see, the people in Europe would call them the social groups, but we call them exactly. We call them the chamas. Where I am from, there are different names that they're given, but people will come together with the little that they have and then they put it away, and that was a culture which sometimes has gotten lost. But we see the resurgence of that, where people are coming together and they're saying, what, we can put that something that I have. If I stay with it, the likelihood of me consuming it is high. But if I bring it to the table and then we all come together and put it together, we can see something that something is happening. Is that the way in which we should be going? And what can we do to bring back that thing of a saving culture, whether you actually are putting something aside? What can we do? Because you've used the word crisis, you've used the word problems, you've used that word to say that we're not in a space where we actually should be, and that we have too many issues at the end of the shilling. Too many issues, whether it's a death, whether it's education, whether it is whatever, that there's too many things happening for us not to do something about it now. What can we do so that we can get to the place where we too can be known as the cultures that save and invest towards something?
Yes, so I think the culture, we need to build it at national level, because to be honest, we've lost a bit of our culture. Like the things we are talking about coming together, what people call modernity, it has ended up disintegrating the society. So we are disintegrating ourselves across generations, across gender. People are spending a lot of time there. But to realize that wealth works with consolidation. Like even if you are to save and build the expressway, for example, it will come from people coming together, the chamas, the circles and stuff like that. So we cannot outdo our social structure. So we need to look at it, even at family level. Actually, there's someone who told me that each family in Kenya should try to create a small family business as a soft landing for their children when they come from university. Because these days, we have too many unemployed people. So those are structures that are in some cultures. They have a family business, you'll come there, as you wait for your internship, you are there for a few months. So these are very creative ideas that you can come up with. Then working together, like the friendships that we have in terms of saving and investing, is very, very key. So what I would say, in my opinion, during the social media era and the era of modernity, discernment is the new level of intelligence. Because things are just coming. You can pick up things that end up not being compatible with the kind of life that would actually be useful to you. Yeah, and that's why you find, like, I know someone who is extremely rich, and they told me that they usually have 3 months in a year where people around them know that they don't want any drama. If you have drama and it is April, wait for May. And it has worked.
We keep your drama for May.
Yes, because they might be waiting for some deal worth hundreds of millions and you are bringing a 1,000 kind of drama. You know, drama can come from all shapes.
Pesky little drama,
Yes. So it's just to know that you need that peace, serenity, and above all, working together. Because great things are done in teams. If it is a football team to win, have that element of working together, and even family members. When we talk about supporting each other, it's not only about money. Like teaching your younger siblings how to write CV, getting a career coach. The people have done that, and their younger siblings have gotten jobs. So learning that you need to move together is very, very important than relying on just one rich auntie or uncle that we are all gonna hate. Yeah, so it's very, very important. Because if everyone is coming to you, it's just a matter of time before they start calling you names. They can call you Auntie Harrier.
But Robert, what you're describing is the socialization or the culturalization of a people.
Yeah.
Because if you come from a culture where it is considered okay to be dependent, and whereas what you're suggesting is that there should be a culture where one is encouraged to strive on their own and to try and see how best they can go about their business. Now, I come from a culture where there are people who will take pride, and it is a good thing, in the achievements of their relatives. But that pride also comes with dependency and over-dependency, to the point where one probably sees no need to hustle or work so long as this able relative there. And this is how they have been cultured. And how do you get people to understand that whatever small a contribution they think they can make, it's still a contribution, and that there are things they can actually do? There are countries that have ensured that in their curriculum, students are taught to have business, to start businesses, have them as students, so that by the time you even get to the level of university, you started in secondary school, you understand a business and you're conducting business. By the time you leave university, you actually have a job. You have things to do. So going to be employed is almost secondary, because you've had time to make mistakes, because there's guidance and you have people who know. You have time to ensure that this thing actually works, and you have time to understand how to earn from it. All I'm saying is the efforts that are needed to get our people to have that complete mind shift and to understand that when money is put aside, it's actually for their benefit and nobody else's. And that when they learn to strive and do things for themselves, it's for nobody else's benefit other than themselves. Places like Japan, you will find 70, 80-year-olds still working. Yes, working.
Actually, according to the Federation of Kenyan Employers, a formerly employed Kenya has got 5 dependents. So you'll have 5 dependents. So I think we need to shed that off. And one thing that we need to do, which should be very radical, is to reduce the youth age from 35 to 25. Because scientifically, it has been shown that to become a full adult at age 25.
But they just told us the other day that they were going to increase it from 35 to 40. That you can now say that youth can go up until the age of 40.
That's a subtle way of African governments to keep us dormant psychologically. So that's why we waste a lot of time. Before you know it, we are 40, and then the pressure comes in. Go to the US. Latest other countries is age 29, 27. Because when I was working in the National Treasury, I joined when I was around 25, and the lady who taught me what I learned there, she was 22, but she had worked for 3 years. So I was feeling very embarrassed. Yeah. She was from India. Yeah. So we need to stop babying ourselves too much. That at 25 I still feel like I'm young. This generational thing that people are given. So we just need to know that the earlier you focus, the better. And when you do well when you're young, you'll get a lot of time to enjoy even life. Like the people who come here for holiday from Europe, they're not rich. It's just that they have a saving
They've put it aside, essentially.
Yes.
There's something that you raised in terms of families, every family coming up with a business. And I think that is very key, because I remember back in the days, Mzee Aseto had a posho mill, and immediately after high school, we went there, you worked, and at the end of the day, you got your own salary and you decide what it is you want to do with that. And it is from that simple aspect of it that you get to understand the importance of having family businesses and how it cushions the young, especially when there are no jobs to do. So in terms of, I even saw Siti smile when you're talking about that. And I think it's very crucial, because it's a buffer zone for families and an opportunity for young people to work at a very young age and know the importance of just putting in the work, yes.
Yeah, so it is soft landing actually, and we should try even by high school. Kids can even go for 1 week or one day, just come here, see how work is done. So you need to start that connection very early, because when you find people from university don't even know how to write CVs, then it's like you just go to university to tick a box. There's no connection between university and work and entrepreneurship. You come and you learn hard, and then all of us, 1 million, we are waiting for opportunities. I think that issue of learning how to create value, it needs to come out, because currently, even if you find discussions in the workplace, they're out of touch with reality. Because I find a child saying Gen Zs are like this, like that, but the world has changed now to what we call ownership economy. I have some clients who are telling me, I'm 37, this is my last 3-year contract. I have to save this much so that by the time I'm 41, I'll be having this in passive income, and I don't see myself working again, or it might be difficult for me to get another job. So you have to live with those realities and really connect with value creation. So value creation can be through entrepreneurship or being a professional, where you can actually trade your skills. So it's about knowing that if I give so and so this job, they'll be able to execute. And let me tell you, Kenyans are actually lucky, because I know like other countries look up to us, and I know Kenyans who are doing very well even in other parts of Africa as mobile money consultants. So we can actually even do borderless kind of opportunities.
There are opportunities, they abound, and there's something that you can do with whatever you have. And it's always important to have conversations like this, just moving us from one step to the next. And because of that, we're very grateful that you joined us in the room this morning to at least have, parts of those conversations, Robert. And we look forward to the next time where we can open up on some of these things again. Robert Ocheng is the founder, CEO of Abojani Investments. We've had a conversation this morning around budgeting, saving, investments, and ways in which we should be going to ensure that the future that we look forward to is actually achieved and achievable. Thank you for keeping it Kenya's biggest conversation this Wednesday, the 2nd of April. Asante Sana, and we'll talk again tomorrow, God willing, by 6. Good morning. It's 10 a.m.